Regents, we are ready to call the meeting to order. If you could please turn on your cameras. Regents, if you are with us, if you could please turn on your cameras. All right, we are going to call this meeting of the Del Mar College Board of Regents to order at 1 p.m. on Tuesday, April 13th. And due to our COVID safety concerns, we are continuing to meet by video and/or teleconference. The public has been offered an opportunity to participate in these meetings with public comment, as well as with an opportunity to listen to the webcast or the audio. So I'm going to call the roll. Regent Adami, are you present? Regent Averett?
Here.
Thank you. Regent Bennett?
I'm here.
Thank you. Regent Garza?
Here.
Regent Hutchison?
I'm here.
Regent Turner? And I am Carol Scott. We do have a quorum and can conduct business. We're going to begin our meeting today with a moment of silence, please.
Are you on?
Thank you very much. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I failed to ask if Regent Salinas is present. I don't think he is as well. Thank you. Regents, please join me in reciting our Del Mar College vision statement. Del Mar College will be the premier choice for life-changing educational opportunities provided by responsive, innovative faculty and staff who empower students to improve local and global communities. Del Mar College is streaming live audio and video from the official Board of Regents meeting on the college's website in real time, with the exception of portions of the meeting considered as closed session by statute. Dr. Escamilla informed me that we did not have any public registering for comment today, so we will proceed with the first thing on our agenda today is the swearing in of our new District 3 Regent, Mr. William Kelly. And so I'm going to turn the mic actually over to Judge Sandra Watts and thank her so much for being there to swear Mr. Kelly in. And
can you see us?
Yes, sir, we can.
I have Judge Watts with me, and we're going to do it from over here.
You ready?
Yes, I am.
Would you raise your right hand and repeat after me?
I,
Your name.
Bill Kelly,
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
do solemnly swear
Or affirm.
or affirm
That I will faithfully execute the duties
that I will faithfully execute the duties
of the Regent of the Del Mar College District
of the Regent of the Del Mar College District
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will, to the best of my ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States and of this state.
of the laws of the United States and this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Okay, if you can give me a minute just to have a picture with the judge, I would appreciate that.
Thank you. We certainly understand. And while you're doing that, I will note that Dr. Nikodami has joined us. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you, Judge Watts.
Thank you, Judge Watts. Mr. Kelly, we want to welcome you to the Board of Regents, and we thank you for your willingness to serve with us over the next few years. And I'm sure you would like to say a few words before we get started today.
Actually, I would. First of all, I want to thank the members of the board for the confidence you've shown in me. When I applied and when you interviewed me, I had an opportunity to talk to you about why I thought that I would be a good fit for the Del Mar Board of Regents. But I didn't get to talk about, and maybe you weren't that interested in why I decided I wanted to apply for this job. And I'll tell you quite honestly, the biggest factor for me was the existing board and my perception of what a great job you guys have been doing. I was very excited about the opportunity to partner with each of you and get to know each of you better and be able to work with you to make Del Mar a better place. So once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited to work with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly. And so as our practice, just to avoid background, we attempt to keep our mics muted during the meetings. And if you have something a question or a comment that you'd like to make, I do a pretty good job of calling on folks or watching when your mic is unmuted to know when you want to say something. We do have Mr. Bennett joining by phone, and so he has to interject from time to time to make sure that I don't miss him. But with that, I want to offer any of our regents an opportunity to say words of welcome to Mr. Kelly. Mr. Garza?
Bill, good afternoon. Welcome aboard. I was the newest board member, and then Laurie took my place Dr. Turner took my place as the newest member. Now you're the newest member. And again, I just want to say welcome aboard. It'll be my pleasure to work with you on the same board or the same commission or whatever body that we choose to serve on. But I've worked with you in the community for years, and I look forward to making our contributions to Del Mar College together. Okay.
Thank you, Rudy. I guess you could give me a heads up on board hazing, just so I know what that's.
There won't be any.
Okay.
I think they passed rules against that.
There is none. This is all.
Good.
Yeah.
Susan?
I'll just jump in, Bill. Very glad to have you part of, I think, one of the best boards I've ever served on, and you will only add to that. And you do have the difficult job of stepping into some very big shoes of Regent Estrada, but I'm sure you can do it, and I look forward to working with you in every way.
Thank you, Susan. And I am very much aware of that. She did a great job for 14 years. That is a big legacy to follow.
Ms. Avert?
Bill, I just want to welcome you to the board. Much like you, a lot of the reason that I chose an appointment was because of the existing board. I really appreciate the nonpartisan nature of our board and how we strive very much so to work together to certainly have some robust conversation, come to consensus in the end. And I appreciate you being willing to join us, and really going to enjoy the work that we get to do. So thank you for putting your hat in the ring.
You bet. Thank you, Libby. I'm looking forward to it. And yes, obviously education is for everybody, and this needs to be nonpartisan.
Nick?
Mr. Kelly, as usual, thank you for taking your time to be with us. It's a very important position, and hey, anything we could do for you, we're at your service as usual. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Nick. Looking forward to the challenge.
And Mr. Bennett, would you like to make any comments?
Welcome, Regent. Congratulations, and I really look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Bennett.
All right. With that, we will jump into our agenda. Mr. Kelly was provided a copy of the agenda prior to the meeting, and I have to give him credit for jumping in with his onboarding. He has had several meetings already to scheduling his onboarding work, and so we are please just jump in. And Bill, as we go along, if there are questions for clarification or process or content, please don't hesitate to ask. All right.
I will try not to be shy.
Very good. We begin each board meeting with recognitions that are happening around the college. And once we begin to meet in person again, we look for the opportunity to recognize students and a number of the wonderful things that our students have been doing. Right now, we have been focusing on a number of staff recognitions. So we're going to start today and ask Ms. Lenora Keys to recognize some of our corporate service and workforce programs. Ms. Keys?
Yes, thank you very much, Regent Scott and Regents and all who are attending today. I am thrilled to be able to congratulate our Diesel Applied Technology and Heavy Equipment Technician degree program. The faculty and staff and deans and leadership, I'm going to introduce them in just a few minutes, and the team that really made this happen. However, what's happened is that we are now the second Texas community college to earn an accreditation from the Associated Equipment Distributors Foundation. And this foundation was established in 1919 as an international trade association based in Illinois and represents over 800 construction equipment distributors, manufacturers, and industry service firms. The AED Foundation was established to address professional education and workforce development in industry and to meet with local dealers, manufacturers, and technical colleges. What's really significant about this is that over the last 4 years, our team has met with the AED leadership, which is comprised of H&V Equipment, Caterpillar Holt, and many other industry leaders. The AED Executive VP is actually quoted recently as stating, "Your accreditation signifies to equipment industry stakeholders that your college has met rigorous industry-specific national construction equipment technician standards. It further signifies to current and prospective students that your program provides the best in diesel equipment technician education as defined by the industry that it serves. This accreditation signifies the importance of industrial credentialing programs, the collaboration between Del Mar's corporate services, the diesel technology program, the dual credit team, along with extensive industry partnerships, which exemplifies the ideal model for program development to develop a highly trained workforce to meet the growing demands of our regional economy." And at this time, I'd like for the great leadership who put all this together to join me on camera. If y'all would like to go ahead and turn your cameras on. And I'm going to call everyone out by name so that you can meet them and see their faces. First of all, our dean is Dan Corris. He is Dean of Corporate Services and Workforce Program. And Dan will speak in just a moment, and he really led this group together. Dara Betts is the Director of Workforce and Industrial Credentialing Programs. Gary Griffith is our Lead Instructor of Workforce Programs and Heavy Equipment. Laura Wright is Department Chair of Architecture, Aviation, and Automotive. Kelvin Jones is the Diesel Technology Program Coordinator. Pete Carpentier is our faculty member for Diesel Technology. Glenn Davis is our faculty for Diesel and Heavy Equipment Technician Program and works in dual credit too. Bon Montez is our Director for Early College Programs. Nicole Pedrinsky is our Program Coordinator for Early College Programs. And Davis Merrill is the Dean of Industry and Public Safety. And I think it's very evident that this was a team effort to bring all this together and really shows the great work across the entire campus and in their meeting and working directly with industry to lead this way. And Dan Corris, our Dean, would you like to say a few words in recognition of this fine group of individuals?
Sure, Lenora. Thank you so much. And Madam Chair and Board of Directors, Regents, thank you for the opportunity just to share this milestone in the college, in the history of the college. This is one of the premier national accreditations by heavy equipment. And I can't say enough of the staff that we have working together over the last 4 years to accomplish this. Understand that we're the second in Texas, and actually TM is the first high school in the state of Texas to also receive that joint accreditation with us. So Lenore, thanks for the support from the administration, and I can't say thank you enough for our staff, our chairs, and of course my fellow Dean Davis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. And also to this entire team, I think you can see their faces on board. Laura Wright, Gary Griffith, and Dara Betts on camera right now. And you guys have just done a fabulous job. And I can't tell you how important it is to show this collaboration across the entire campus and the leadership within industry that stepped up to make all this happen. Congratulations to you all. Thank you very much for this time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keys, for bringing this forward, and congratulations, Mr. Corus, and your team for this outstanding work. We know that accreditation programs of any kind are tremendous accomplishments. So we applaud you and your efforts, and thank you so much for continuing to improve programs on behalf of our students.
Thank you. Thank you, Regents.
Next, we will hear from Dr. John DeHalcom, our Provost and Chief Academic Officer, with another recognition for Dean Gregg.
Thank you. Madam Chair, esteemed Regents, and Dr. Escamilla, it's my pleasure to announce that Mr. Cody Gregg was appointed to serve a second term on the TextShare Advisory Board. The TextShare Advisory Board is appointed by the State Library Commission and is charged by statute to advise the Commission on matters relating to the TextShare Consortium. The advisory board includes representatives from community colleges, private universities, publicly funded academic institutions, medical libraries, public libraries, as well as 2 representatives of the general public. TextShare, if you're not aware, is a consortium of Texas libraries joining together to share print and electronic resources, purchase online resources, and combine staff expertise. The consortium makes available e-content such as electronic databases and e-books, reciprocal borrowing of print materials, a courier service, and interlibrary loan protocol. It is invaluable service to many Texas libraries, including Del Mar College, who would struggle to pay for the services without the assistance of TextShare. The consortium has grown from 53 members back in 1988 to almost 700 members today. Now, Mr. Cody Gregg has served as our Dean of Resources since the fall of 2017. He has over 20 years of experience in management and administrative positions. His insight in instructional technologies, open resource labs, library services, and active learning spaces enhance the expansion of our library and learning support services. I hope in congratulating him on his second term of appointment, and I'd like to ask Cody if he'd like to say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Holcomb. TextShare really is an invaluable resource for the libraries in Texas, especially, as Dr. Holcomb mentioned, the e-content and e-databases that are made available at a really significant discount. Many libraries, public libraries, academic libraries throughout the state would struggle to be able to afford these resources without the great work that TextShare does. I'm really honored. I'm proud to represent Del Mar College, to represent Texas community colleges and the Coastal Bend as a member of the TextShare Advisory Board. Dr. Holcomb, thank you. And I want to thank you, the board, and Dr. Escamilla as well for your support in continuing in this position. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cody.
Congratulations on behalf of the board for this continuing work on behalf of this important resource for both the college and our students. Thank you, Dean Gregg, and thank you, Dr. Holcomb, for bringing this forward for us today. All right, we will move into our student success report. Mr. Kelly, at our board retreat last May, the board asked for an ongoing report at every meeting on different activities specifically related to our student success initiatives. And so each month the staff brings forward a different program, maybe a data point, it might be a report, but different ways that the college can report to us on various strategies and tactics related to student success. And so today we're going to hear from Dr. Jonda Halcomb about our HVAC and EPA certification. Dr. Halcomb?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Regents, and Dr. Escamilla. It's with great pleasure to celebrate the success of our students. Always such a pleasure. Next slide, please. Students in the Air Conditioning Applied Technology program were successful in completing the Environmental Protection Agency certification. The certification is required by federal law, requires all persons who maintain, service, repair, or dispose of appliances containing regulated refrigerants be certified in proper refrigerant handling techniques as required by the National Recycling and Emission Reduction Program. Examples of regulated refrigerants currently include the CFCs, HCFCs, HFCs, and HFO refrigerants, which are common in appliances, air conditioners, refrigerators, and industrial process systems. As mentioned, the EPA certification is a requirement for students looking to have a career in the HVAC industry. The certification, as you can see, consists of 4 parts. The core, which covers federal regulations, type 1, which covers small appliances such as your refrigerators, window units, etc. Type 2, which involves high pressure refrigerants. That includes home and commercial air conditioners. Type 3, low pressure refrigerants, which is special process machinery. Next slide, please. This graph shows the statistics from the ESCO Institute on the comparison of Del Mar College students' EPA certification completion versus the national average. The graph shows that our students have done well as compared to the national average. Students that are enrolled in the Heating, Air Conditioning, Refrigeration Technology EPA recovery certification do quite well. With this new course having been added most recently, the students are able to get employment in about 1 semester, and that's fantastic that people are out there wanting to hire our students pretty quickly after 1 semester. Now, 19 of our students received universal certification, which means they passed the type 1, 2, and 3 exams and can service all appliances. So each type is independent of the other for the exam, but if you only pass type 2, as I understand, you can only service certain types of equipment. So it is with the dedication and hard work of not only our students, but of our faculty of the Air Conditioning Applied Technology program that have contributed to such success. And so congratulations to our students for their achievements. And I'd like to ask if there are any questions. I do have Mr. Paul Creasy here from the program if you have any in-depth questions that you would like to ask.
Any questions, Regents?
Jen?
Thank you, Dr. Halcomb. Thank you, and congratulations, Mr. Creasy, for these outstanding results.
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank all of you.
We will now turn to our college president's report. Dr. Escamilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Regents and everyone out there, particularly Mr. Kelly. Look forward to working with you. It's been good to catch up with you by phone, and I look forward to the time where we can actually shake each other's hands and get to know each other even better. So again, welcome. So Regents, ladies and gentlemen out there in the electronic world, I'm pleased to give my report for the month of April and talk about basically where we are at this point. And I would just generally describe this position, this time in our history, as a pivot point, particularly as it relates to the past 12 months and as it relates to the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on our college and certainly our community. So we continue to monitor conditions associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, as I just alluded to. As vaccines become more readily available and COVID cases decline, our return to campus planning team has decided to adjust our guidelines for employees coming back to campus to work. We're encouraging employees who have private offices or workspaces adhering to social distancing to begin returning or make plans to return to work as soon as possible and or makes sense for them. This is the transitional period that I've been talking about. We are not requiring everyone to return to work at the same time. We understand individuals have different opportunities, and because of the vaccines, we're still allowing that flexibility. So as a result, we remain in phase 2 of our return to campus with the access with access for approved employees and students, and our health and safety protocols remain in effect. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said, it's this next 8 weeks is a critical, absolutely critical period, as you all have witnessed in the community, and that is the case for our college. Now, there's a couple things going on at the same time. So we have the end of the semester coming upon us very quickly, the end of the big spring semester. And so what we'll have is many faculty, especially on the shorter contracts, who will leave for the summer. Okay, so we'll have kind of that natural evolution of the academic calendar coinciding with the ramping up of vaccines and the like. What we think that scenario will provide is an opportunity for us to begin coming back increasingly slowly and steadily over the summer, the summer sessions, and then likely heading into fall in what I would call a quote old-fashioned normal set of circumstances, whereby the vast majority of our students and employees can come back to campus in a regular fall format. Stay tuned. We're taking it month by month. It's going to be it's still very tenuous, and we're still proceeding with caution. We still adhere to the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, our state governments, certainly our county and city governments as well. We remain very closely aligned with them, as well as our hospital administrators and professionals. Under regional collaborations, I'm pleased to announce that last month on March 18th, we were visited by our dear friends and colleagues at Texas A&M University Kingsville. Go Hogs. I know we have a few alumni out there.
I have my Javelina Yeti cooler today.
All right, very timely, very timely. Lots of great things going on there. President Dr. Mark Hussey and his leadership team visited with us, and we toured our facilities primarily on West Campus and discussed expanding collaborations with the university. It's a beautiful visit, very, very timely, and just a wonderful group of individuals out there. So looking forward to expanding that conversation. And it didn't take long, I might add. I'll tell you why here in just a little bit. On April 1st, earlier this month, we also hosted Coastal Bend College President, Dr. Justin Hoggard, and his Chief Academic Officer, that's Dr. Patricia Resack. And we explored the opportunities for partnerships and collaborations there as well. This took place at our West Campus, where we believe our lowest hanging fruit, if you will, for opportunities in partnering with our sister college right up the road is at hand. So stay tuned for that, because lots of great ideas and synergy that are backing up all those phone calls we've been having over the past several months should be yielding some really fine collaboration and efforts in a very short order. And then I'm going to kind of jump around. I'm going to add two more items here in just a second, but before I do, let me see. So then last week, the meetings culminated, several meetings, a meeting of all three institutions culminated on April 8th at Texas A&M Kingsville. So just last week, we sent a strong contingent, and we were met by Dr. Hoggard and Dr. Resac at A&M Kingsville to discuss the partnerships with the university and how we could all establish and increase those opportunities for all of our students in this region. We had this regional higher ed perspective that was just a fantastic visit and opportunity to really advance the opportunities for our students. It was just a phenomenal meeting, and again, thank you to Dr. Mark Hussey from Kingsville and his team, as well as Dr. Justin Hoggard, president of Coastal Bend College. Two little side notes that I wanted to add before we moved on to legislative affairs. April 2nd, we did hold our first vaccination clinic here at West Campus, and it was a very successful event whereby over 500, I think it's 530 or 540 vaccines were given of the first dose of one of the, I believe was the, well, the two-dose, the Moderna vaccination. The second one will be happening on April 23rd to follow up on that particular vaccination clinic. We are being requested to host even more by the county, so stay tuned. I'll fill you in as that happens. So hats off and thank you to the team who administered that on April 2nd, which was Good Friday. It was overwhelming success, and we look forward to continuing to serve the community in all ways. And it was a wonderful day. Just really quickly, I wanted to let the Regents know that on April 23rd, as I move on into the calendar, on April 23rd, I will be holding at 8:30 a.m. I will be holding a college-wide meeting. But it will be virtually. I'll be delivering my address, my college-wide address from Richardson Performance Hall. Regents, and especially for the newer Regents, what I do is in the spring of every year, in the fall of every year, I kick off with what typically has been a face-to-face commencement, or excuse me, a convocation kind of format. But I don't do that at the early part of spring because it's too rushed and not enough information is developed and so forth. And so what I do is I take the opportunity in the spring to let some concepts and issues and all kinds of things that are really internal messaging develop and deliver it in what I would call a convocation type of setting, albeit a virtual venue. I look forward to delivering that to the entire college as an FYI there. Moving on to legislative affairs, on April 6th and 7th, Dr. Natalie Villarreal and I attended the legislative meetings in Austin with our delegation and staff members, where I presented the legislative agenda for Texas Association of Community Colleges to either our representatives and or our staff members. So I literally followed in the tracks of our esteemed chair, Ms. Carol Scott, who preceded me by a week, and it was duly noted and much appreciated by our delegation. That's the way we do things there. You send a message, you say it again, we're going to be back and continue to reinforce the great efforts of the Association of Community Colleges, and especially the great efforts here at Del Mar College. And as always, we were received and experienced tremendous support from our delegation. Thank you all. Thanks to all of them and their staff members for receiving us. And finally, spring commencement will be held on Friday, May 14th at 7 p.m. It will continue to be broadcast via the college's Facebook and YouTube channels virtually. So make that note, and as we get a little closer, we'll remind you again, but I'd like to kind of give an early calendaring heads up for everyone to consider carving out that time and finding a nice comfy chair and enjoying a beautiful ceremony. It's different. It's not a face-to-face traditional setup like we've had for so many years, but I'll tell you what, the team does a remarkable job in setting up that virtual ceremony that is so important to the culmination of our students' academic careers here at Del Mar College. Madam Chair, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions for Dr. Escamilla? All right, seeing none, we'll move into Regent Comments, and wanted to provide you with an update on behalf of the Community College Association of Texas Trustees. Mr. Kelly, that's our state association. There are 50 community colleges across the state and a little bit over 400 regents and trustees across the state. We use the generic term trustees because most of the colleges call their elected officials trustees. There are a few of us who go by the title of regent, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe that's a good history research project for somebody in the future. Wanted to let you all know that the Trustee Association and the Texas Success Center Board of Trustees Institute is going to combine their annual conferences September 16th through 18th. We'd originally planned it for June in person, but wanted to give folks just a little bit more time to get vaccinated and to feel comfortable, and hopefully to see some continued downward trends from the COVID pandemic. And so we are going to be meeting in person in Austin at the Domain, the Westin at the Domain, September 16th through 18th. That will include some really in-depth student success numbers in looking at data points. The association has offered through grant funding to send the CEO and 2 members of the board free of charge. So you have to get yourself there, but the room and the registration fee would be covered by the Texas Success Center and its funders. So that's an excellent opportunity. If more of us want to attend, then the college, as it normally does, would pick up the registration fees and hotels for any other regents who want to attend. In addition, the dates have been set for our national association, the Association of Community College Trustees annual Congress in San Diego this year will be October 13th through 17th. For those of us who want to attend, I know that those two are back to back on each other, so that's why I wanted to give you these dates now so that you might have an opportunity to think about whether or not your schedule would permit you to attend any or even a portion of these dates. But the ACCT will be again in San Diego. It's an excellent opportunity to meet with colleagues across the nation and to learn all kinds of different facets and how different folks use their trustees in governance, and opportunities to learn about student success and again, effective governance techniques. So some great opportunities there. And then lastly, the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board hosts its annual conference in late November every year. That will assist our new regions in complying with some of the required training if you haven't been able to do that online by November. We don't have the specific dates of those, but Dr. Villarreal and Delia Pettis, our staff liaisons, our board liaisons, will get you that information as it becomes available. But I wanted you to know about those 3 learning opportunities, September, October, and November, again, so you can maybe plan your calendars accordingly. And then lastly, wanted to give you an update on testimony that I was able to provide to the Senate Higher Education Committee on March 31st. One of the bills that the associations are advancing is a bill on requesting that the legislature create a commission on community college finance. So looking to have an opportunity to spend about a year with Senate members, House members, representatives from the Texas Association of Community Colleges, the Community College Association of Texas Trustees, as well as business leaders from across the state to look at the state funding model and whether or not the performance measures, our core operations, our success points, and then, contact hour funding, and just looking at the whole package of our state level funding and whether or not that is appropriate for today's community colleges. The last time there was a comprehensive look at our state funding model was almost 50 years ago. So we think it's probably time for the state to begin to look at that. So I was able to provide just some comments on behalf of the Trustee Association to the Senate Higher Ed Committee. Are there any questions about our Texas Trustee Association activities over the last few months? Seeing none, I'm going to turn it over to, I'm sorry, yes, sir, Dr. Escamilla.
No questions. Just a point of clarification on my comments earlier. It was the Pfizer vaccine, so that's important.
Gotcha.
I said Moderna. I got corrected, and it was the Pfizer 2-dose vaccine.
Good.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
So with that transition, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Villarreal to give us a legislative update as part of her staff reports.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Dr. Escamilla, and board members. So today's legislative update will focus on information you received since February. I'd like to start with news from the state legislature and then segue into a brief intro to what's happening in the National Congress. Next slide, please. So starting with the 87th legislative session that began on January 12th and is currently scheduled to wrap up on May 31st with sine die, all final bills have been submitted, and committees are in full swing right now, hearing testimony and getting ready to send to the appropriate chamber floor. I'd like to begin with progress on the joint community college agenda set forth by the three main organizations that work closely together to advocate for students, faculty, and staff in Texas. First is the Texas Association of Community Colleges, or TAC as we like to call it. Dr. Escamilla is involved at the executive board level and the legislative committee, as well as other committees with TAC. Then there's the Community College Association of Texas Trustees, which Regent Scott is currently chair of, and you are all members of. And then the the Community College Teachers Association. So the joint legislative agenda is brought forth by these three groups. I'd like to give you an update on that and then discuss Del Mar College's involvement. Next slide, please. So a couple of months ago, you received a copy of the legislative agenda, but now that session is in full swing and the budget is really being looked at closely, there have been some changes, specifically to the funding ask. This session did start a little slow due to COVID-19, but as Dr. Escamilla and Regent Scott mentioned, we have made some trips to Austin, and we have been in regular contact with our legislators, specifically Senator Hossa, Representative Lozando, Representative Herrero, and Chairman Hunter, who all are very supportive of Del Mar College and have been briefed on the following bills. So in front of you, what you have is first and foremost the funding ask for all community colleges in the state. And what this is showing you is the Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 1 appropriations, which of course is the budget. The associations have been testifying and working together with the higher ed committees and the appropriations committees to advocate on behalf of the state colleges. For example, Regent Scott also testified on February 24th in front of the Senate Finance Committee, which helped to advocate for this funding. And just to give you an idea, Del Mar College receives about 20% of our funding from state appropriations. So I'd like to give an overview of this information, and then Dr. Escamilla can help me discuss the implications of what this means for us in terms of budgeting for the next biennium. So the initial funding goal was to respectfully ask for continued support of community colleges, understanding the state's current fiscal condition. So if you take a look there in the middle highlighted column, you can see the appropriations request set forth by TAC and CAT and TCCTA. This includes the core operations, success points, contact hours, And due to the circumstances with COVID-19, additional funding to keep all colleges level from the last biennium has also been put in. And you'll see that there in new, and it says hold harmless funding. So towards the left side, you'll see the Senate adopted version of appropriations. And then on that second column, you'll also see the House adopted version of appropriations. And then the third column is additional money in the House. However, is not in the bill right now. It's currently in what they call Article 11. What I'd like to note here is that both of these adopted bills at their current state leave over 30 of our community colleges in the red from the last biennium. The challenges with the Senate version give colleges less compensation for students who complete successes such as a certificate and credential. So what's happening on the Senate side is funding is really emphasizing the transfer students to the four-year universities. Now, while transfer students are an important part of our mission, it does not cover all of our student successes within the community college world, which is causing a deficit for some of the community colleges. Dr. Escamilla, would you like to discuss Del Mar's position on that?
Thank you, Dr. Villarreal. So, Regents, what the upshot of where we are right now is we're right in the middle, or at the little past the beginning of the where the House and the Senate began to prepare to talk about things and really discuss their two versions of their bills coming out of the chute. The good news. Well, there's really tough news, and as an officer of the association, it's my responsibility to do a couple different things. It's to balance the home front with, as president of one of the 50 colleges, and then still represent all of the other remainder of the colleges here in Texas. And so, as such, I get to balance that. Now, where Del Mar College is, if I can wear I'm wearing my Del Mar College president hat first and foremost. I'm pleased to say that right now the scenarios are such that because we did such a tremendous job with enrolling students and getting them to their desired points in their academic career, we were, quote, merely down 4%, 4.2% in contact hours. We're going to talk about that here. And the implications of that means that we were number 9 in the state. Many of our colleagues, unfortunately, throughout the state experienced tremendous downturns in enrollment into the double digits and in the upper double digits. And we were number 9 out of the 50 colleges. What that does, Regents, is that positions us currently with what I would call undeveloped undeveloped conversations between the House and the Senate still. I mean, it's actually happening as we speak. We remain in the black under all case scenarios. That's a really, really powerful statement. And there's some reasons for that. Again, this is all preliminary. We're still early on. We've still got several weeks to go in the legislative session. And I have to, continue to do everything I can to support the remainder of those 30 plus colleges that are in the red under the current scenario. The better news with all of this is that we've heard from Senator Creighton, who is the Senate chair the chair of the Senate Higher Ed Committee, and his word to us so far has been, look, it's early. Hold on. We know this is not what we were all hoping for, that sort of thing. Stay tuned. The work is yet to be done. Senator Creighton has been a phenomenal supporter of community college, a community college graduate of himself, and now an attorney and a senator and all of these other great things. So he gets us. He appreciates the mission, and we believe what he says when he talks about his commitment for community colleges. I started talking more politics than numbers and anything, but again, Dr. Villarreal, thanks for that opportunity. Regents, I'll answer any questions I have. My job is again to go to the state, be an officer at the association, always wearing the Del Mar College had at the same time, and making sure that we're not only communicating to our legislators, but to our other 40 or the other 49 colleges around the state, because this is brand new for a lot of those new presidents, and it's taken a lot of time to educate them as to what's going on. Thank you for that opportunity, Dr. Villarreal.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Escamilla. And so we have been in contact with our local representatives on the challenges and things that are coming up for them to vote on in the next couple of weeks. As Dr. Escamilla mentioned, what will happen is this will go into conference committee, where the Senate and the House will have the opportunity to come to a middle ground. And so we continue. We have a few more weeks of work ahead of us where we will continue advocating. Again, the goal at this point is to get all 50 community colleges out of the red for the next biennium. So stay tuned on that. There are several bills that we continue to watch. I do continually work closely with staff to ensure that we're keeping track of anything that could affect our students, our faculty, or our staff, either in a positive or negative way. Next slide, please. As Regent Scott mentioned, we do have the TRUE initiative that is also the second priority for the community college legislative agenda. It currently has authors in the House and the Senate and is being head the higher ed committees. We do have local support. Senator Zaffarini and Chairman Hunter, both on the Senate and the House, have been very supportive of this bill. Again, the idea is really to create a grant program for community colleges to work with our business partners to rapidly provide short-term credentials to our displaced and underemployed workers, put them back into the workforce. The current ask does have a $50 million price tag on it, but this would be to implement across the state in the next biennium. There was a press conference held last Friday to really create momentum for this initiative held by the Senate. So again, we will keep you informed as this bill continues to move forward, and hopefully it will be in the House and Senate to vote on soon. Actually, Del Mar College was asked by the Texas Student Success Center to be one of 12 colleges to develop an action plan if the TRUE bill were to pass. So we do have right now Dr. Leonard Rivera and Dr. Christina Wilson, who are actually working at the state level to work on that plan so that we can be ready to implement it once it moves forward.
Dr. Villarreal.
Yes, sir.
If I may just add, Regents, these short-term certifications, and these what they're also using the term micro credentials and the like, are what these are so critical to Del Mar College and to our success, because I will remind you that at any given point we have 10, 11, 12,000 depending on the semester of credit students, and we'll have anywhere from 9, 10, 11, and 12,000 non-credit or continuing education students. These short-term credentials are a tremendous part of our operation. And again, we're going to talk about this in the enrollment report, and I want you to connect these pieces of the puzzle and or these items, because as we're talking about legislative efforts here, I want you to know how it translates back home. You will hear me chiming in here in just a little bit, so I just want you to kind of put a pin in this one, if you will, and this concept of the short-term micro-credentials and or continuing education courses. Thank you, Dr. Villarreal.
And just to give you an idea, I know you hear about a lot of different grants that we receive from the state and how closely we work with the Texas Workforce Commission right now. But again, this is a very different initiative because it is rapid. It's getting these initiatives quickly off the ground without having to apply for a grant that takes months before you find out. This is really about the timing and getting people reskilled and upskilled into the workforce as quickly as possible to continue to jumpstart the economy after the pandemic. So stay tuned on the TRUE bill. And I know Regent Scott also mentioned the Commission on Community Colleges, so I'll go ahead and skip that piece. But I will add, we have not talked any about the federal money coming to the state. We do know that there's about $35 billion coming to the state from the federal government. However, that money is currently not being allotted and not being discussed. So we are hoping that initiatives like the True Initiative will be part of that discussion, but we will continue to keep you up to date on that as we hear about that. Does anybody have any questions on the state agenda before we move on? Next slide, please. So you've been receiving emails from Dr. Manny Gonzalez with CAT. He's continuing to offer webinars for Regents. The next webinar is going to be on May 6th. This one is going to provide insight regarding the Texas Community College funding model that Regent Scott was talking about and the various factors that impact institutional budgets. So it is only an hour long. It's May 6th from 1 to 2. So if you have time, I do encourage you to register. It's very helpful information. Next slide, please.
Natalie, can I ask, is that one that we register through you or directly?
Actually, that one you can click directly on the link and register, and it does not have a fee to attend.
Oh, I just do it directly. Okay, great.
Thank you. So moving on to the national agenda, in March, you were given a report of the current legislative agenda that covers over 1,000 community colleges and approximately 12 million of our community college students. So I will provide you a copy to our new regents for those who did not receive that last month. But today I'd like to introduce the federal appropriations that have really been the main topic of discussion, and specifically for community colleges. And then I'd like to pass it on to my colleagues, Mr. Raul Garcia and Ms. Lenora Keys, who are going to give you a more in-depth information regarding those appropriations. So in the spring of 2020, we started with the CARES Act, and that was the first relief money that we started to see in terms of COVID-19 relief from the federal government. And then in December 2020, we did get a second relief package. That one was called the Coronavirus Response and Relief Appropriations Act. The Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, that was the second fund that went into act. And today, Mr. Garcia and Ms. Keys are going to talk about that in conjunction with the third installation, which is the full act is called the American Rescue Plan Act. That was passed in March. This includes the $1.9 trillion relief package, and it also includes the $40 billion in the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, which is the HERF 2. So if you have no more questions right now on legislative affairs, I'd like to go ahead and pass it on. Thank you.
Any questions, Regents? We'll be coming back to you all, Regents, with more legislative updates, as you would expect, as our session begins to really heat up here at the state level, and Dr. Natalie Villarreal will be facilitating that. As she said, we're gonna now turn the microphone over to our next item on our staff reports with Ms. Lenora Keys and Mr. Raul Garcia, who are going to talk about the HERF 2 and 3 packages, just as we promised from previous board meetings. Ms. Keys?
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. Actually, Mr. Garcia is going to start us off. We're here to discuss the two acts, really HERF 2 and HERF 3. And Mr. Garcia is going to start us off with an overview, and then I'll pick up. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Keys. So good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. President, and members of the Board of Regents. I want to start off with, the pandemic has significantly shifted the sand underneath people's lives, and it has also caused an economic slowdown that started in the first quarter of 2020. In response to this, the federal government has rolled out various fiscal and monetary policies which emphasize on economic price stability, maximum employment, and health and safety. At the March board meeting, the college provided information about the Higher Education Emergency Relief, or the HERF for short. The HERF is a segment of the overall CARES Act stimulus funding. One common thread in today's conversation is the HERF continues to be a component for each of the new stimulus funding. Ms. Lenora Keys and I will continue the conversation about the HERF that includes a planning update, listing of advisory group, the funding priorities, and the federal funding restrictions. We will begin with some background on the latest two stimulus funding on the next slide. Thank you. The federal government's response to the health and safety and the economic recovery includes a proliferation of fiscal stimuli funding that started with the CARES Act back in March of 2020. The latest stimuli funding signed into law in the last 4 months includes the Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations and the American Rescue Plan. The HERF is a subcategory within all three of the stimuli funding. For the purpose of this presentation, HERF 2 is funded under the Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, and HERF 3 is funded under the American Rescue Plan Appropriations Act. The HERF 2 and HERF 3 combined grant award for the college is valued at about $30 million that comes with many federal spending restrictions. The funding objectives are narrow with a focus on preventing, preparing, and responding to the COVID-19. The award includes $11.2 million for student emergency grants and the rest for the college to defray COVID-19 expenses and or additional student emergency grants. There's one more item to complete the award process. There is one more item to complete the award process, I'm sorry. The college is currently waiting for the official grant award notification for the HERF 3 award. The grant award notification, commonly referred to as a GAN, is considered the final legal binding agreement between the federal government and the college and includes information such as the period of the award, the amount, and the final terms and conditions of the grant details. Please advance to the next slide. So I want to start with a quote from Edward Deming, who is recognized for his continuous improvement cycle model of plan, perform, monitor, and improve in the field of total quality management. He has said, the management of a system requires knowledge of interrelationships between all of the components within the system and of everybody that works within it. Accordingly, the college has put together an advisory group that will help the college navigate through the complexities of bridging the college's existing operations with the restrictive and narrow compliance requirements of the grant, and as well as bridging the objectives of the college's 5-year strategic plan. This slide has a listing of the advisory group with the technical expertise within their respective areas of operations and who are grounded in the college's strategic vision. Are there any questions? Very well. Please advance to the next slide. So I want to pause for a moment to discuss a very important concept which comes to when it comes to managing federal awards, and that is the term supplanting. Ms. Cook from Collier, Johnson & Woods, our external auditors, was kind enough to share the meaning of the word supplanting. So federal law prohibits recipients of federal funds to pay for services, staff, programs, or materials that would otherwise be paid with state or local funds. once again, that would otherwise be paid with state or local funds. In general, federal funding is intended to add, enhance, expand, increase, and or supplement operating activities that will result in an increase in service levels. Now, I will say that there have been organizations who have tripped over this concept, and it often occurs when the state and or local funding is reduced, typically occurring during the economic downturn. These organizations will deviate from the grant requirements and begin leveraging federal funds to sustain normal operations. The downside of this decision is a grant the organization becomes non-compliant with the grant, and the federal funds are refunded back to the federal agency. Now, this amount can range from a nominal amount to the full amount of the federal award with interest, penalties, and if the spending is egregious, jail time. I suspect that these organizations with a large risk appetite have deep pockets who can sustain a return of funds for the entire award of the amount of the award. So let me frame it around Del Mar's HERF 2 and 3 total awards of $29.8 million. Having to pay $29.8 million could be devastating, worst case scenario. Having to pay back $29.8 million could be devastating for the college. Our current healthy liquidity levels will be diminished. Our resilience to adapt to unfavorable financial conditions will deteriorate. Our sound reputation for managing financial resources and future donations will diminish, and our AA bond rating would deteriorate. Now, one way of managing these financial risks is to make compliance a priority, followed with bridging the objectives of the institution's strategic plan. Secondly, establishing a cross-functional advisory group that understands this. So if there are no questions on this slide, we will transition to the direct student assistance on the next slide. Thank you. So I'm excited to report that the HERF 2 and 3 grant awards include financial aid grants to qualifying students valued at $11.2 million. The Department of Education has reported in their notice of interpretation that the funding must be used to provide financial aid grants to students. In addition, it is the Department of Education's intention to extend all available flexibilities that may be authorized by law under the HERF programs. A few noticeable flexibilities relative to the HERF 1 CARES Act includes, number one, for the first time, students enrolled exclusively in distant education courses, continuing education, and dual enrollment will be able to receive direct student assistance. Number two, for the first time, the college will be able to apply the direct student assistance to tuition and fees provided that Del Mar receives student written consent. This is a huge change relative to the HERF 1 CARES Act. Under the HERF 1, the college was or is required to give the award directly to the student in the form of an emergency financial aid. The college is using the Department of Education's frequently asked Q&A dated March 19, 2021 as a grant award compliance reference. Please note the college is anticipating a change to reflect the HERF 3 grant award requirements. So for now, the use of the federal awards are restricted to the following. Number one, to provide financial aid grants to students that can be used for the cost of attendance, emergency costs that arise due to the coronavirus, such as food, housing, healthcare, and childcare. Students with exceptional need will have priority. The student aid cannot be conditional on the student's continued or future enrollment. The student aid cannot be used to satisfy a student's outstanding account balance unless the college has obtained a student written consent. The student's written consent to apply the award to an outstanding account balances cannot be conditional or receiving student assistance. So this is verbatim coming off of the Q&A. If there are no questions, Ms. Keys will continue the presentation with respect to the vision for spending the institutional share of the funding and the federally mandated restrictions.
I think we have a question from
Mr.
Regent Averett.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. This is Libby. And for the other regents, Regent Scott had to step away temporarily, so I will try to kind of guide this if there are questions, but please just feel free to pipe up if I don't see your microphone on. Mr. Garcia, you mentioned that the funding could not be contingent on a student's continued or future enrollment. So is this funding available? Can it be available for new students, or do they have to be students who were enrolled at some point during COVID?
This is a very good question. So first of all, I'm capturing this information verbatim from the Department of Education's Q&A. And so your question, I think there was two parts to it. Number one, can the dollars be applied to old outstanding balances? I think, or am I paraphrasing? I think, and I would say there is a question on that, and the response is yes. The student can elect and allow the college with a written consent to apply these dollars to a pre-existing balance, but, and there's always a but, right, is that we can only go far as back as when the emergency declaration was made, and I want to say is sometime in the middle of March. So before that, you can't do it, and it becomes even difficult because when you think of March is in the middle of the term. So the question is, how do you manage that? It's almost very difficult without getting into too much trouble. So yes, I would say anything after the following term of that March date would be a lot easier to do. And I'm sorry, can you repeat that second component to your question?
Sure. So what about a new student who perhaps joins us even this summer or this fall? Can they receive?
Yes, so this will be open to all eligible students, not only returning students, but students that will or are currently enrolling in our summer and fall semester.
Okay, great. Thank you. Regents, are there any other questions for Mr. Garcia? If not, Ms. Keys, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Next slide, please. The total operational assistance and minority serving institutional funds from both HERF 2 and HERF 3 total over $18.6 million. The overall funding priorities will be tied to our various goals within the strategic plan. Additionally, the focus of the Act is intended to be, and I'm quoting here, a transformational approach that enables institutions to operate more flexibly and resiliently in the long term. Examples of funding priorities are tied to the delivery of instruction due to COVID-19. This is to expand remote learning programs, build informational technology capacity due to COVID, train our faculty and staff, and however, there always must be a clear connection to the impact of COVID-19. As you see, these strategies all combine to support our goal 1, which is completion for our students, and goal 2, which is persistence for our students within the strategic plan. The college has already extended to students $1.5 million of HERF 2 and the CARES Act $1.9 million, which is basically HERF 1. So students have already received $3.4 million in total support. Next slide, please. Allowable expenses tied to COVID-19 examples are lost revenue, the cost of technology tied to transition to distance education, training for our faculty and staff, additional payroll expenses, and increasing financial aid grants to students. These are all different from CARES 1. This also allows students to choose to use funding to pay off debt to the college, as previously mentioned by Mr. Garcia. The expenses that are not allowed under these grants are tied to recruitment, marketing, capital funding tied to athletic facilities, and executive salaries or bonuses or other cash benefits, as you can see. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Our next steps. In planning for our next steps, we're still waiting to receive the grant award notice for HERF 3, which will provide more specific language clarifying the approved funding strategies and timelines. However, we've already met to begin developing strategies to distribute student funding similar to the original CARES Act. This will be staggered over a period of time, including the next several semesters or grant periods that we anticipate up to spring 2023. That answers your question, Regent Averett, is that we do hope that this would go even into year 2023. However, we're still pending that final letter. The expanded, hello, yes, question? No. The expanded criteria in HERF 3 includes students in credit courses, continuing education, dual credit, and other cohorts. However, students with exceptional need continues to be the overriding focus. So we're working diligently to establish these timelines, review the information, and to gain this last final documentation that will further clarify the act. And at this point, are there any more questions or comments? Mr. Garcia and I'd be glad to answer anything.
Regents, are there any questions?
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Dr. Escamilla, do you have anything that you'd like to add on this topic?
Just that Regents, as promised, Regents, as promised, we brought you back the information so far that we know. There's still lots in development, but we want to make sure and stay in close touch with these extraordinary grants that are coming from the federal government. And as we put together, just know that we continue, we've begun meeting immediately as we've been notified of these stimuli dollars coming in. And so we'll continue to meet and organize a plan, and you can expect regular updates at coming meetings in coming months. And as was mentioned, we expect for a significant portion of these dollars to be timelined out into the future for upwards of 2.5 years from now, maybe 3. Again, what I want to mention that the current administration tends to be it operates differently than the previous administration. Anyway, so what I want y'all to know is that the opportunities are very different. So if you see kind of differences in nuances in the different packages, it's because HERF 1 and 2 came from the previous Trump administration, and package 3 and possibly 4 are obviously coming from President Biden. They see things very differently, as we all know, but it's reflected in these programs of opportunity for our students. So just FYI there. That's why our team is extrememely careful and cautious about how we move ahead with allocating and utilizing these funds. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Garza, I see that you have your mic open.
Yes, thank you very much, Regent Averett. Real quickly, I've got a question that's kind of related to some information in a future presentation, Dr. Escamilla and Lenora, on the funding and the not allowable. Of course, certainly we don't want to take any risk in having to pay any of this money back and all the things that come along with that. But it says the not allowable is pre-enrollment recruitment activities. I saw in one of the presentations further in the agenda related to a survey and some students not being able to enroll or re-enroll and continue their education due to financial constraints or financial considerations. How about for being able to work on retention or bringing students back into to continuing their education. Can this money be used for that?
Yes, sir. It can be used to reach out as far as to work with students to clarify that their funding is available. And it could be used to where what's different now is that students perhaps who have debt to Del Mar College and there may be a financial hold on their account can elect to allow their monies to pay off that debt. And therefore we would be removing their hold. However, it will not be allowed to use like a marketing campaign to use for advertising. Right. Those type of initiatives are not allowed. Yep. But it can pay salaries for like advising and financial aid counseling. Those type of salaries included, or our efforts are included.
Yeah, because we had about 33 or 34% of the students that answered the survey that said that they could not continue or did not continue their education at Del Mar because of financial considerations. And I was just wondering if those folks that answered, or if we could send something out saying we've got some funds to be able to help in certain financial situations.
Yes, sir. And that's one of the things we're going to get clarified when we receive this letter, the funding award letter, the grant actually itself. Everything we're getting right now is coming from the Act, reading the Act. And so those are the type of things that will be clarified in the award grant and what type of activities that we consider recruitment. However, there may just be delivering good information and reaching out to our students.
Yeah.
Generally, the students that qualify for this have already filled out an financial aid or a Pell Grant application. And so those are the students that we reach out to automatically anyway. And so this will be money over and above their financial aid and a grant award.
Yeah, so I will also add that there really needs to be a clear nexus to the COVID-19, a clear connection to the COVID-19. And so I'm sure that the rationale will be different for each of these 35 students that you mentioned. It could very well be that they're staying home to attend to a parent, a child who is dealing with the COVID-19. And so that in itself is a nexus to the COVID-19 that would qualify the student. So it's very difficult to say, hey, just based on the mere need of financial aid would qualify it. The rules are very, very narrow. It says it's got to be clear connection to the COVID-19. So as Lenora mentioned, Ms. Keys mentioned, that a good idea would be is to have an advisor that can vet this information out on a student by student basis to help get some clarity and to identify how it's connected to the COVID-19 so that they can qualify for these dollars. So it's not an easy job. Again, each student may have different reasons for not having sufficient resources to attend the college. But if it's connected to the COVID-19, that's definitely a good rationale to apply for these dollars, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
That helps. Yeah. And so, by the way, please send them to us. Please send those students to our financial aid office, who definitely also understand the requirements, and they can help them guide them through the whole process as well.
Thank you very much. Great conversation. Does any other regent have any questions or comments? I will say, having worked some in the federal and state grant world, I very much appreciate you all taking such caution in spending these funds, because it can be a little tricky. So thank you so much for your attention to that. Next on the agenda, I believe we have the student enrollment report, also with Ms. Keys and Dr. Silva.
Yes, thank you, Regent Averett and Regents Dr. Silva and Patricia Benavides Dominguez, and I will be presenting today on enrollment. And I'm going to start off with really an overview of the enrollment process. And this overview leads very well with what Dr. Natalie Villarreal introduced and mentioned about the the Regents workshop that's coming up or the webinar regarding state funding. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some connection here with the terminology that we're going to be talking about as far as the funding model and how the community college is funded from the state. So I'll go through this. If we could go to the next slide, please. We're going to start by talking about the Texas Biennium, which is the base year for contact hours and formula funding, credit headcount, contact hours, including an update on dual credit, and then ending with the annual update for contact hours for this fall and spring semesters for both continuing education and credit. Next slide, please. I realize this slide has a lot of terminology on it and details. However, this shows the complexity in a way of the funding stream and how it is calculated. The legislature sets the overall state funding every even number year for the following 2 years. This is referred to as the base year. The college began this base year as of summer 1 semester of 2020, and it will run through the beginning of the spring 2021 semester. Based upon the contact hours earned by each student in each course, our funding will be determined for the next 2 years, beginning in fall of 2021. Next slide, please. This calendar shows how the state defines the base year. Even though it begins in, quote, summer 1, the contact hours are actually counted for any course that begins after the 16-week spring term, which was our long semester that began in January, there on the left side of this calendar press slide. The college has a variety of terms or semesters. They include the 16, 15, 14, 8-week, and Maymesters. All but the 16-week term for spring is referred to as a flex term and will impact our fall and spring enrollments that you will see in coming slides. Anything that began after the 16-week term in January of 2020 was counted as summer 1 as it moved through the summer. Also, college credit terms run on a semester format, whereas continuing education courses are on the quarter system. You will notice that the third quarter begins in March for continuing education base year and ends in February of 2021. So this calendar I keep printed on my desk at all times because it can be confusing, the terminology. So we offer it and talk about it almost every year. Next slide, please. This is the pie chart of the budget that we're existing under right now for 19, 20, and 2021. We're focusing on the state appropriations portion of the college's funding pie, which is the blue section up in the right-hand corner. Calculated on the base year of 2018, the budget for that academic year. In that academic year, 15.3% of our total budget was funded by state reimbursement for contact hours generated by instruction for both credit and continuing education reimbursable courses. Next slide, please. I realize there's a lot on this slide. However, I would like to show the overall impact of state funding based on contact hours generated on instruction. The combination of credit at courses and continuing education was over $16.4 million for the biennium, or 2 academic years. Depending on the rate of reimbursement and funding for the state, once the legislative session is completed, we will then know what the next biennium funding will be for the academic years 2021-22 and 22-23. So basically, fundamentally, what we're doing right now is what we get paid on for the next 2 years. Next slide, please. This slide shows how funding formula has changed over time and what was proposed in the 22-23 biennium as of April of 2021. The final rates have not yet been approved and they may change. Student success point rates for 2018 and 19 and 2020 and 2021 was also proposed at $215, but was approved at a lower rate, respectively. And the rates for the biennium are still pending. I'd like to point out the average rate per contact hour that we're projecting to go up and your student success points to go up with core operations at $2 million. However, as Dr. Escamilla mentioned and Dr. Villarreal, this is still pending. But this is how it would work out at the overall community college rates. Next slide, please. And this shows Del Mar College. This slide shows the contact hours by biennium. And as you see, our credit contact hours are down 7.1% compared to the last biennium. So that's looking at this last year as compared really to 2018-19. But our continuing education contact hours are up 28.1%. With the assistance of continuing education, the college is down 4.2% from the last biennium. And Dr. Escamilla mentioned in his president's comments that and these are not, lost my word, they're not complete numbers yet. However, it looks like we're the 9th in the state as far as the lowest loss, if we can say that correctly, as far as the least down within the state overall. We're at number 9, which is really a positive trend. However, the final numbers are not certified by the coordinating board quite yet. But this does give you a very good reference point moving forward for where we stand against the and proposed to the other community colleges within the state and where we stand moving forward for this biennium.
Lenora, may I jump in, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Regents, this is the point that we've been tying to several conversations now throughout this agenda today. It is an extraordinary number, especially that one in the middle, the 28.1% increase in those micro-credentials. You know, this is where our opportunity still remains and why the good work with the legislature still remains in front of us to see to it that the distribution of dollars for contact or for through the contact hours or through the success points rather are balanced for not just our transfer students, but that they're balanced and equally supported for our continuing education students and our short-term credentialed students. This is going back to what we were saying in our legislative update. We're doing so well there. This is this number to what is represented by 28% increase, that 528,000 number, amounts to about a little over 11% of our total contact hours. And Regents, what I want y'all to know is as we compare that against other colleges, we are way head and shoulders above the other colleges with regards to that percentage. Typically, it's around 3, 4, 5, 6%, 7%. This is why, and so for us to have a number that's over 11% of the total bucket of contact hours is an incredible thing. And I just say that's why we have, I'm going to brag a little bit here, that's why we have our big brothers and sisters up the road at Alamo Community Colleges knocking on our door saying, how are y'all doing this? Well, we've invested a long time ago, and especially for the newer regions, this did not come overnight. This is a 8-9 year development whereby the college has been investing in that aspect of the curriculum. Moreover, we've changed the laws. I guess it was about 3 legislative sessions, maybe 4 legislative sessions ago, with House Bill 4992, that opened up the capacity for funding and the thresholds for age requirements for that aspect so that we could receive funding. That also helped. Know that I'm going to be going back next legislative session with a head full of steam on expanding those opportunities for even younger students, particularly on the continuing education side. No, we're not talking about 5 and 6 year olds, but we're talking about 15 and 16 year olds, maybe even 14-year-olds in certain areas of the curriculum who ought to have access to these skills-based classes in the health field as well. The health's going to be a little bit more restricted, but particularly in the industrial fields. Anyway, thank you for that opportunity, Ms. Keys.
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. Let me pause here because I do see that we have a couple of questions. Regent Hutchinson, the mic is yours.
Yes, I was going to start with a question to Lenora. It may have been answered by Dr. Escamilla, but Ms. Keys, do I understand that ranking where we end up so high is based on the total contact hours? Is that negative 4.2%? Is that correct?
Yes, that's
okay.
Correct.
And so I think what Dr. Escamilla was adding there is that we did better, even better than that on the continuing education, which also makes me think that is the conclusion that on credit contact hours, we did, if we only took that as a comparison, we did not do as well. Is that fair?
Well, yes. The credit side suffered more during the COVID times, I would say.
And by that, I mean, if you took just credit hours, credit contact hours, and compared to that to our peers, we would not have been 9th. Is that fair? We would have been lower than that.
If it was just taking the 7%, we'd probably still be in the top 12 or so, not much further.
Okay.
The average number really started to grow in the 8, 9, 10, 12, up to 20-something%. We're talking extreme changes and so forth. 7%, if the 7 was our overall number, we'd still be doing pretty well, all things considered. I like to say that you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than everybody else. And so, and with that said, 7%, although it's a negative number under the extraordinary circumstances, we would still be doing well. Not very well, but well.
It weighs out well, and it's a tribute to having done that planning and had that continuing education as a cushion, I'll call it. Thank you.
It is, and it's been a tribute to the support that we received from the Regents, I might add.
Thank you. Thank you both. Regent Kelly.
I've got a few questions. So, Lenora, I'm seeing that we're anticipating that the pay per average rate per contact hour is going to go up from 540 to 544, with then an increase in the 2022-2023 year to 583. Is that an effort by the state to try and keep the funding level, anticipating that the numbers will probably start going up as COVID subsides, or is the state looking to save money on junior college funding by looking at these low numbers and basing our next 2 years on an extraordinary year?
I think it's fair to say that the state is trying to keep the community colleges whole, and that overall so many have lost. And so if we go up on the per contact hours in general, it will keep the community colleges whole moving forward and not with less money.
So
what will happen, honestly, is that this year being a base year with the pandemic, generally across the state, most colleges were hurt by 11 to 12% on average. And so if you take that number forward for the next 2 years, and we really expect enrollment to jump. I'm the optimist here, but I think that there's pent-up demand. You're going to have people coming back to college that weren't. And so we basically would be underfunded for the next 2 years if they don't increase that rate. Because the contact hours are down, the volume's down, so you need to get the rate up.
But I want to clarify something real quick. I'm going to ask Dr. Villarreal to jump in because Regent Kelly, that's the House version that Lenora said, and right now with the Senate being quite different at this point, the idea of keeping us whole is still in limbo. Natalie, would you jump in there, please?
Yes, sir. So Regent Kelly, what the continued challenge that community colleges have is the fact that many of our legislators do come from a tier 1 university. And we had a lot of new legislators who are still learning and trying to understand where the community college fits in within higher education and how we in turn help with the workforce. So one of the challenges that we're currently facing is that most of the priority is being put on the transfer students who transfer to the 4-year university, which also within the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board is showing priority towards.
Right,
And so, yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to guess, Dr. Escamilla, seeing as we did better than most of the other junior colleges, if the legislature tries to make us whole, might we expect actually to make more money based upon our low numbers here on lost contact hours?
So preliminary, a great question, Regent Kelly. Preliminarily, under all case scenarios, even with the 4% right now, we're in the black across the board. And there are 4 different, there's several different scenarios out there. That being said, that yes, the short answer is yes to your question. We would do even better. We're not in that 32 number of colleges that are in the red. Now, numbers may go down from one scenario to another, but overall, still remaining in the black. And that's without the development and what I'm going to say the whole or complete good faith effort from the Senate that has yet to be resolved in conference committee.
Yeah, I recognize this is a work in progress. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Kelly. Are there other questions from the regents?
This is Regent Bennett.
Yes, Regent Bennett.
I have a very basic question, or maybe a series of them. Dr. Escamilla, I've been concerned about the enrollment since 2014, and you and I have had many discussions about it. Is the enrollment now at or below what it was in 2014? And I guess I need to talk about full-time equivalent and or contact hours.
It was hard to hear. I apologize. It was a bit muffled. What year were you asking, Regent Bennett? I apologize. I couldn't hear that.
Let me ask it again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so you and I have been discussing enrollment since 2014. My concern has been the lower enrollment. Is the enrollment now below what it was in 2014? And by enrollment, I'm referring to full-time equivalent and or contact hours.
Okay, as we're looking at the chart and comparing to the 14-15 biennium, that's what I have in front of me right now. The numbers are slightly down on the credit hours. Well, no, they're down. Well, they're down more than slightly, from currently at 4.2 million to 4.5. Now, continuing education are in the neighborhood of approaching double this time around than what they were in 14. We are down slightly from 14 in contact hours. Again, comparing the whole context to this whole scenario here is that it was under COVID conditions. That's the factor that we have to have woven into everything we're talking about here. That being said,
well, I agree with that. I agree with that in current years.
Yes,
but
sir.
In 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18, there was no COVID.
Yes. Yes, and it's been, although we were higher than 15, we were lower than 14. We have this chart in front of us that delineates those in total contact hours. Again, this is the year about, you know, it's a very difficult situation where we have to compete. It's an enrollment driven existence with the legislature. That's all there is to it. And the fact that they're pushing more emphasis on success points gives us even greater opportunities to surpass and excel amongst our other peers. It is a competition type of scenario. But Regent Bennett,
and I want to clarify, Doctor. I'm not concerned about the legislature funding. I'm concerned about the enrollment, and for a number of reasons. We've talked about this for the last 7 years, actually.
Yes, sir.
It looks like the enrollment's down, basically flat or down. Has the population of the Corpus Christi area increased during that time? I think it has.
Yes, and where it's up is in the continuing education, and that's been the emphasis of this conversation, and understood. The population on the credit side and on the traditional side is flat at best, slightly down. That's the scenario where we're down 7%. But yet on the continuing education side, we're up 28%. Again, because we're working with the legislature and working to craft legislation that rewards those short-term credentials. That's enrollment too, okay? And so although we're when you factor that in and then you look at the total production hours of 4.7 million, it's an extraordinary feat. And yes, the numbers, I believe the census numbers are coming, and all we can really do is calculate what we know based on last census. We do not believe we have shrunken any, to answer your other question.
Okay, and this is my concern. I appreciate all that. This is my concern. Dr. Silva was discussing a KPI a couple of months ago that he said we're going to go from 2% of the population to 3%, which doesn't seem like much, but that's a 50% increase. And what historical data are we looking at that indicates that we've increased our level at all? It looks like we've decreased. So I'm afraid that KPI, that objective, doesn't have any factual basis. Maybe I'm wrong, but what factual basis do we have that says we're getting more of the population in as enrolled students?
Dr. Escamilla, I see that Regent Scott is back, so I'm going to turn the meeting back over to her. But I would like to point out on this chart that we see right here that forget about the 2022-23 biennium, our total contact hours are up, not a small amount, from 2014 to the last biennium, 2020 to 2021, which I think is a good indication of some of the growth that we have had since 2014 in our contact hours. Again, primarily from the continuing education contact hours, but that's been a specific strategy of ours. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Regent Scott.
Let me just add one more thing. And so there's another story that we're missing here, because we are talking base year. It's this literally between the lines here of what happened off base year. Okay? Last base year, we were up beyond all of this. And Dr. Silva, are you gonna talk about that? Are you gonna demonstrate that here in the next couple of slides?
As a matter of fact, Dr. Escamilla, we have 2 slides that will show our fall enrollment, spring enrollment having a steady increase.
Yeah.
So that's part of my presentation. It's probably the next 2-3 slides I'm going to go into.
Yeah. So Regent Bennett, although let me qualify this by saying we're just talking about base years here. There is what happened last academic year off base year, which is a very different story, and we're about to show that. So bear with us. And did we answer all your questions so far?
Well, you give me answers. I appreciate that. I still have my concerns. We've had a $296 million capital improvement program since 2014, and it looks like we're losing on the percentage basis of enrollment of the population, and that's concerning to me.
Well,
but we've talked about this for 7 years. I just want to make sure that we're not experiencing analysis paralysis. And we're actually doing something that's going to result in increased student enrollment.
So stand by. I think we've got some answers here to continue. So we're moving. Let's just, if we can, let Dr. Silva continue. Go ahead, Dr. Silva.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Escamilla. We go to the next slide. Before we go into the enrollments for the fall and spring, we do want to touch a little bit about student success funding, since that is part of our funding calculation. And so the graph that you have before you right now reviews our how colleges receive success points. Texas community colleges receive success points after a student reaches certain milestones like completing developmental work, completing 15 and 30 credit hours, or even receiving a credential. Next slide. So on this chart here compares Del Mar College to other large colleges across the state as it relates to success points. Del Mar College in 2019-2020 success point total was 16,753, which is flat compared to 2018 and 2019, and down 5% from 2017 and 2018. As a side note, in our last biennium, Del Mar College received over $1.6 million in success point, which is about 10% of our funding from the state. Next slide. To our conversation we were having just minutes ago, this here shows a little bit about spring. The next one's going to show about the fall. But as you can tell, it has had a very steady, small increase in enrollment. So we're focusing here on our CBM reported data for spring credit headcount. This includes the last 5 years, which also includes flex entry. Ms. Keys explained the flex entry at the beginning of our presentation. So it's a good indication of the strategic shift the college took during this pandemic. The focus on increasing second 8 weeks, if you see that blue bubble you see on spring 21, it added 2,880 flex students to our CBM count. So this gave the college a 5.8% increase from the overall headcount for spring 2020. For spring 21 without the flex, we would have been down 12% from spring 2020. Next slide. And Dr. Escamilla, this is a slide I was alluding to off script just for a second here. As you notice, except for fall 2017, which is the year of Hurricane Harvey, if you remember, we have showed a nice steady increase to the fall 2019 of having 12,252 students. You see a note at the very bottom put in by our institutional research office. That beat our record of 2,236 students in fall 2020. So you can see here how the pandemic hit us really hard for the credit side of it. So you'll see here how in fall 2020, we went down to 10,936, which is a 10.7% decline. But focusing on the flex entries, we go on to the next slide, please. This slide best illustrates the college's response to the COVID crisis. As the graph shows, students were hesitant to register at the beginning of the semester. Del Mar College tripled the amount of courses offered in the second 8 weeks. This strategy resulted in over a 300% increase in flex headcounts from the fall 2019, which was 761 students, to the fall 2020, which was 2,880 students. So before I pass it on to Associate VP Patricia Benavides Dominguez, I did want to review, and Dr. Escamilla give you a chance to also, I think these are two slides we were talking about with Regent Bennett. If you could go back one slide, please. Here we go. So again, this is the slide that we were referring to a while ago that shows our enrollment over the last 4 years, which shows a steady increase in enrollment. So I want to pause here before I pass it on to Ms. Benavides Dominguez.
Thank you, Dr. Silva.
Questions.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. And Regents, before we open up for questions, I just want to say, this is what I was talking about. This is between the lines. Now, had we had our druthers, that we'd have had the base year, a year ago. But we only have the base year every other year, and we get what we get. But so is it down now? Yeah, under the COVID environment, we are down 4%. It's still an extraordinary feat to be down that minimally, relatively speaking. The year before, at 12,252 is combining the fall semester with the early summer flex entry of only 244 students, but it's a strong showing of over 12,000 students there. So yes, Regent Bennett, I understand what you're saying completely, and I look forward to advancing the conversation. It's an extraordinary year. But still, despite that, I think we're doing extraordinary things.
So Dr. Escamilla, I think Ms. Patricia Benavides Dominguez, our very next slide is going to compare our enrollment to our fellow colleagues. if we have no other further questions, we can proceed with her.
Right.
Next 2 slides, please. Next, there we go. Thank you.
Hello, Regents. This slide shows the enrollment percentages of our cohort colleges across the state. As you can see, the pandemic has been a challenge for our sister colleges as well. It is important to note that our numbers do not include the flex numbers we have been discussing. We do not have spring numbers yet. Del Mar College experienced 11% decline from fall 2009 to fall 2020. The cohort ranges from a negative 48% to a negative 3.4%. As a note, the colleges with the smallest decline, Blinn, South Plains, and Tyler, all have student housing and a younger student average age. These colleges are primary transfer colleges to partner universities. Next slide, please. We have already discussed our contact hours for the last 3 fall semesters. This chart is to give you a historical perspective of our contact hours. This chart illustrates a steady increase in contact hours for the last 5 years for both fall and spring. Next slide, please. The dual credit program continues to grow. This slide shows there has been a 5-year increase of 26% and 1.3 increase from last year. We currently have 35 high schools participating in our dual credit programs. I want to take this time to thank the Office of Early College Programs. It is due to the great relationships they have built with our local ISDs that they continue to grow. I will pass on the presentation to Ms. Lenore Keys.
Thank you very much, Patricia. This next slide, please. This slide represents contact hours for continuing education and credit courses on an academic year basis. I want to point out that prior slides in the beginning, we were looking at a base year. And this gets confusing at times when people quote numbers and enrollment and contact hours. And I do want to point out that we're looking at this on an academic basis now. And it's comparative in looking at the credit contact hours for credit courses and contact hours for continuing education. And so as you see, we're only partway through this year. And it is the year that's been most impacted by COVID-19 and how we've had to respond to it. Our families and students have been impacted, and we're seeing it in this last slide over on the far right. However, we still have additional contact hours to include. For continuing education, this is only 2 quarters. We still have 2 more quarters within this academic year, and we still have the flex enrollments for the spring semester. That would be everything after the 16-week term. So your 8-week terms, your Maymester and summer are not included in 2020-2021 academic year. So this is giving you a point in time, a picture of where we stand as of today. Any questions on this slide? Next slide, please. And this finalizes our presentation for today in enrollment. Are there any other questions? We'd be glad to answer or any comments.
Thank you, Ms. Keys and Dr. Silva, Ms. Dominguez, Dr. Escamilla, and thank you, Ms. Averett, for chairing the meeting in my absence. I apologize for that, for having to step out for a few moments. Are there any additional questions? I think the comments that I heard from Regent Bennett, and again, I apologize if I came in halfway through, are certainly concerns that we all have about continuing to grow our enrollment. And so that's part of why I think these deep dives into the data and deep dives into our strategic planning KPIs are important. And so at future discussions, it might be worthwhile to have some discussions on the strategies and tactics that the college is using on our enrollment recruitment, to begin to think about how we bring students back from this COVID lapse, and what kind of help and assistance they're going to need to regain their pathway to completion, whatever that completion might be. Again, I think those are valid concerns and valid questions to ask, and something that I think each of us on the board are concerned about, making sure that we are making up for that lost time and getting our trajectory back to where it was.
Yep, absolutely. The sentiment from the state legislature is that in the fall they expect that they're preparing, and the federal government as well. The whole country is bracing for a huge return of primarily our traditional students as early as next fall. So we are standing by, but we will be more deliberate and plan on for that as well.
Thank you. Ms. Averett?
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the data correctly, and I appreciate this report. But by looking at what you presented, if you take 2020 out, forget about COVID year, but our trajectory between 2014 and prior to COVID, we were increasing enrollment and contact hours based on the data that you just showed us. By my math, especially the contact hours went up about 4.5%. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And if we look back at the slide, one of the best ones I think to look at was the slide on base year calculations. And we were up over 100,000 in contact hours from base year 2014 to 2020. And so
point out that slide. Let's get to that slide, please.
Let's go back to that slide, please.
Tell them where
credit contact hours.
It's base year contact hours.
Base year.
Let me count. There you go. This slide right here, if you look at the 2014-15 biennium, the total contact hours were 4,837,000. If you look at the biennium 2020 to 2021, which is our last solid numbers, it's not impacted by COVID, is 4,940,000. So it's over 100,000 in contact hours in that, when you're looking at the comparative numbers. And these are certified numbers by the coordinating board. The other numbers, like for this year and previous, these numbers are not quite certified yet. So these are very valid numbers and point in time to look at, where we're up over 100,000 in contact hours.
Thank you. I just didn't want to come away from this discussion with a thought, at least in my head, that somehow our contact hours and enrollment were decreasing even prior to COVID, when that was not the case. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Aed.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much for that again, in-depth discussion. We'll now move on to our non-returning student survey. Dr. Escamilla, do you want to introduce that?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Regents, just as we've promised, we're responding to the questions that you all have had about, how are our students interacting with the college and our operations here. And so this survey that's going to be discussed talks about that. It talks about us being proactive and not just sitting around and guessing what our students are doing. So I'm pleased for Dr. Wilson, Dean Patricia Dominguez, and Dr. Silva to discuss this survey further.
Thank you, Dr. Escamilla.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Regents. Very nice to see you all today. As we've discussed this afternoon, colleges throughout the state and the country have grappled with decreased student enrollment since the start of the pandemic just over a year ago. We know that our students have endured many challenges, but as we consider how best to serve them, we don't want to make assumptions about their experiences. For this reason, Dr. Escamilla asked a small team of his leaders to develop a survey to help us better understand why a student may have chosen not to re-enroll in classes during this time period. I will be sharing information about the survey, which we are calling the Non-Returning Student Survey, with my colleagues Dr. Rito Silva and Patricia Benavides Dominguez. Next slide, please. The group of students that we chose to survey are those that were enrolled in credit coursework during the spring 2020 and or the fall 2020 semesters who did not re-enroll in courses in the current spring 2021 semester. From this group, we removed any students who completed a degree or certificate at the college during this time period. A total of 5,700 students were identified as non-returning students. The survey was distributed online to the students' personal email accounts in early February of this year. 555 responses were received, which is a 9.7% response rate. Considering that the survey was distributed to students that are not currently enrolled at the college, we were satisfied with the number of survey responses that we received. The survey consisted of 4 questions. 3 of them were in multiple choice format. Students had the option to include comments on 2 of the multiple choice questions, and the final survey question had an open-ended format. Next slide, please. The first question asked students to respond to the following prompt. What factors impacted your decision not to enroll in classes at DMC? Students had the option of selecting multiple responses from a list of 11 multiple choice options. The most frequently selected response was other. On the next slide, we will look at the comments that students submitted as part of this other response. The second most frequently selected response was personal finances, followed by difficulty with online classes, student financial aid, job, safety concerns, just needed a break, childcare advising services, and technology. Finally, a small percentage of respondents indicated that they'd rather not say. Next slide, please. Now let's take a look at the comments that respondents submitted as part of question 1. These are the themes that arose from the comments. The comments indicated that many students did not enroll at DMC this spring because they are attending another institution, or they were dual credit students that graduated from high school. Students also indicated course-related and non-course related dissatisfaction with college services. During the spring 2020 semester, the college shifted to emergency remote instruction. In many cases, courses that had only been previously offered face-to-face were quickly converted to the online format. Similarly, many of our faculty who had never taught online had to learn a new set of skills very quickly. Given these circumstances, receiving comments about dissatisfaction is not surprising, though we do seek to ensure that these are not ongoing issues, but instead a reaction to emergency circumstances. Students also commented on their personal difficulties, such as familial responsibilities, health concerns, and finances. One example of a student comment is, because of COVID, my daughter needs help with her 3 young elementary children doing virtual classes. I'm hoping that I will be able to resume classes this summer. Additionally, students commented on overall safety concerns due to the pandemic. Several indicated that the pandemic as a whole impacted their decision not to return to school. And finally, several students indicated that they are currently in transition and are planning to re-enroll in classes. Dr. Rito Silva will describe the responses to question 2.
Before we go on, Ms. Avert has a question.
Thank you. Thank you. Very quickly, Dr. Wilson. For this question, do you know roughly how many of the respondents gave the first answer that they left because they were attending another institution?
That is something that we can look at within the comments, but I don't have that with me at this moment. And to tell you the truth, we received a good almost 30 pages of comments. So these are the themes that arose, and I can get that for you.
Wow. Well, I'm just you don't have to get it for me. I'm just wondering if we could narrow it down to the reasons that we have some control over, as opposed to, that's a successful, in our eyes, a successful reason for moving on. So,
sure.
Thank
you. That's a great point.
Mr. Kelly?
Well, and following up on that, would the left Del Mar College to attend another institution include the dual credit students who graduated from high school? Or would that be another pool of students we would not have expected to see come back?
Yes, within the survey comments, there were several students who indicated that the reason they didn't enroll with us is because they graduated high school and were enrolled as part of dual credit and had not intended to continue with us past high school. So those students were included among this population that were surveyed.
Well, I understand that, but Regent Avert talked about students that went on to another institution. So the dual credit students would be a second category as well.
That's
right?
very true.
Okay.
You could consider those to be distinct and maybe some overlap.
Right. I agree. So as alarming as those numbers are, they might not be as bad as we were originally thinking.
I agree with you. Okay. That's an excellent point. And I feel very fortunate that that's what they shared. And these themes that you see, they're actually ordered in order of how frequently that we received these comments. So left DMC was one of the main reasons students gave for not enrolling, that they are enrolled in another institution or they just had other plans after high school.
Well, and to what extent can we make assumptions about the greater population, considering we got a 9.7% answer rate, I guess?
Right. It's always tricky when it comes to surveys and looking at a response rate that we can be satisfied with. I would say in general, for most surveys that we administer, higher education institutions administer, a good survey response or some of the strongest you may be able to receive are 15 to 20% in some cases. So the fact that this population isn't actively engaged in Del Mar College and they still chose to participate, the fact that we got a near 10% response rate was relatively good. But you bring up a good point that it's hard to generalize completely, considering it's just a small subset of the group.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions about question 1? Okay, next slide, please. I'll turn it over to Dr. Silva.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. On question number 2, we asked students to respond to the following prompt. If difficulty with online classes influenced your decision not to return to Del Mar College, what are some of the things that contributed to that decision? So students had the option of selecting multiple responses from a list of 9 multiple choice options. As you can see on this chart here, 43% of respondents indicated that did not have any difficulty with online courses, which is a very positive indicator. The second most frequently selected response was difficulty transitioning from face-to-face class to an online class, followed by difficulty with course materials and information in Canvas, time management, difficulty communicating or lack of communication with other students in class, so they missed their interaction amongst each other, difficulty navigating my online class, lack of a suitable laptop or other device, and at the with 8.1% students said difficulty finding a stable internet connection. So just as the college and its faculty had to quickly pivot to emergency remote instruction, our students had to pivot as well. Students who had never taken a course in an online format had to ensure access to reliable technology and internet services. They also had to learn the Canvas learning management platform and adjust to a more independent learning style. Again, given these circumstances, receiving comments about dissatisfaction is not surprising, though we do seek to ensure that these are not ongoing situations or issues, but instead a reaction to emergency circumstances. Next slide, please. Here, now let's look at the comments that respondents submitted as part of question 2. And these are the themes that arose from these comments. The comments indicated that some content is difficult to learn online, and we definitely understand that courses, especially workforce courses, are difficult to teach and learn online. Students also mentioned that the lack of support, communication with online instructors were an issue. And to nobody's surprise, students also indicated that they were dealing with personal difficulties, such as family responsibility, like Dr. Wilson just mentioned, and mental health concerns. And lastly, obstacles such as tutoring and guidance through the transition to online learning were challenges. Before I go on to question number 3, any questions for me? Okay. If not, then I'll turn it over to Patricia Benavides Dominguez. She'll discuss questions 3 and 4.
Moving on to question 3. Next slide, please. Moving on to question 3. The question asked was, what can DMC do to assist you in re-enrolling? As you can see, 36.2% stated the top reason was needing financial assistance, followed by 35.7% wanted more face-to-face courses, and assistance with advising and registration rounded out with 22.3%. Next slide, please. On this slide, the open-ended comment themes were students identifying obstacles in the availability of classes, instructional support, positive comments about DMC, students intending to return to campus, and personal difficulties. Dr. Christina Wilson will now discuss the campus response.
Are there any questions regarding questions 3 and 4 for Patricia?
I have a question about the financial assistance. That was 36% of the respondents on what we can do to assist them in re-enrolling, but we didn't have any comments related to question 3. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have any themes related to that.
We don't. Okay. Question 3 did not have an option for comments.
Okay.
We've got to assume what we've known for a very long time, that the lifeblood of our students is financial, and as such, that is going to be a driver for us to reach out, and especially with these HERF dollars.
Right.
That's going to be the opportunity right there. Yeah,
because I'm curious as to if it is financial aid in the traditional sense, or living expenses and again, what has happened. So I was curious about some.
It's both, because the HERF dollars can go above
right.
the financial aid dollars.
Right.
So it's going to be both wherever we can, one end or the other whenever you can.
Okay, thank you.
All of the above.
I'd like to pause for a minute and highlight the fact that for question 4, we did receive many positive comments about the college, supportive comments, comments about wanting to return, being thankful for what we do to help them reach their goals. So most of the questions that we're asking them was really focusing on their difficulties and challenges. It was really refreshing to see that students would take the time to reinforce the fact that they're glad that we're here and that they're appreciative of us even reaching out to them. Okay, next slide, please. In previous presentations to the board, the college has shared information regarding its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm going to share just a few key highlights that are relevant to this survey. At the start of the pandemic in March 2020, the college implemented emergency procedures to move its services online. Student services, including advising, registration, outreach, and enrollment, tutoring, and library services were moved online. Additionally, as previously discussed, the college shifted to emergency remote instruction, which required many faculty members to participate in training on how to use Canvas. Finally, the college acted quickly to implement emergency safety protocols. The March and April time period of 2020 were truly unprecedented for Del Mar College and for most, if not all, colleges across the state and the country. Though we are proud of how quickly we were able to pivot and of how much we were able to accomplish in this new online environment, we recognize that there are ways that we can improve. And we want to make sure that students who have had a difficult experience during this transition get their needs met. Next slide, please. There are several next steps that we are pursuing now that we have successfully transitioned to an online remote working environment. The Student Services Division will be conducting outreach to all non-returning students to assist them in re-enrolling if that is a part of their plan. The e-learning department will continue to host faculty professional development and training sessions. Our deans have observed, and many faculty have commented, that they feel much more comfortable teaching in the online environment now with experience and training under their belts. And we anticipate that this will only continue to increase that comfort and quality level. We are also currently planning this year's Summer Academy for faculty and staff, which will more than likely focus on best practices in online learning and in advising. Lenora Keys and Raul Garcia shared information just a few minutes ago on her funding. A part of this funding is direct financial assistance to students, and as we've discussed, we're still waiting on the specifics of that award letter and how we can leverage it to best meet students' financial needs. We also seek to strengthen our communication with students, both in the virtual classroom and through online messaging. We want to make sure that students are aware of the resources available to them, such as 24/7 online tutoring, online advising services, and online library services. And finally, we plan to continue asking students about their experiences at Del Mar College. We don't want to assume that we understand their challenges, and instead, we seek to make sure that the services we are providing are meeting their needs. This survey has helped us to understand our students' needs and will help guide our actions now and in the future. This concludes our presentation. We would like to thank the Institutional Research Office and the College Relations Office for administering the survey, the Foundation for providing gift card incentives, also Dr. Sydney Somby for conducting a qualitative analysis of our comments. We will now pause for any final questions.
I have I guess comment/question. I'm curious as to the opportunity that exists for that outreach to all non-returning students. The protocols that we are setting up around this COVID pandemic and reaching back out to students really can serve us year-round, anytime a student that we were expecting to return doesn't. So I'm curious as to what resources, how we're going to do that. Does all mean all? And how we might integrate that into our year-round crisis situation or not. I think that it's a wonderful strategy to undertake.
Lots of details still to be parsed out with that question. You know, we know that we have some restrictions with the HERF dollars. They've got to be operational dollars in the way of outreach. They cannot be marketing dollars, those kinds of things. And so it's going to be a balance of existing strategies and new strategies. We know the electronic world will be a part of it. It's going to be a tough juggling act, and we're trying to. That's why we're meeting right now to assess, you know, how our resources match up with our KPIs, strategic plan, and all of those sorts of things.
But the potential to hire folks or supplement our outreach staff for our COVID non-returning students, I could make a strong case for that.
Sure.
What I'm suggesting is that the learning and the protocol and how we do that it's a monumental task right now. It's 5,000 students, whatever the number is right now.
Mm-hmm.
On an annual basis or on a semester by semester basis, it might be 500, it might be 1,000 students. When you take out dual credit, or you have a separate messaging for dual credit students encouraging them to come. I'm just thinking that there's a COVID response to this, but then there's also some learning we can do that year in, year out. This can be a great strategy for us to help, as we've talked about in our strategic plan, getting our students through to completion.
Absolutely.
So I really, from my perspective, underscoring outreach to all non-returning students, and and capitalizing all.
Absolutely.
All means all.
Absolutely.
I think that would be just a tremendous strategy from my perspective.
Duly noted.
Regent Garza?
Thank you so much. I'm just following up on the concern I had related to trying to get some financial assistance from the HERF dollars to those students that may have been affected by COVID. I just want to make sure when you talk about all that we're not going to just go to students that previously qualified for financial aid. It's quite possible that in this particular scenario or environment, there's a lot of students that maybe never even applied for financial aid, or maybe didn't qualify for financial aid, but may have been, I'm going to say, affected by the COVID-19 scenario, or maybe some of their work opportunities may have been diminished, and so therefore find themselves not being able to return to college due to financial considerations. So I just want to make sure that whatever we do include all students, not just those previously eligible for financial assistance.
We will do everything we can to use the full expanse and definitions of the parameters allowed by those federal packages. So you can be assured that we will be as inclusive and accessible to as many students as possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Raul Garcia. So very good recommendation. And so one of the things that the committee has talked about is what kind of outreach can we do to these students that have not returned back to us as we ramp up our summer and fall registration. And so what Lenora and Mark have talked about, and myself, is creating a list of all those students that have not registered with us as of yet, going back to summer of 2020, and then having a conversation, pretty much like the Q&A that you got, the surveys that you just got done, and trying to drill down as to whether or not there's a clear connection to the COVID-19, at which point in time we can have a discussion as to, how they can access these HERF $2 and $3. So there's some things that are already in motion, and so we're collecting that data as we speak, and so more to come on that.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you all very much. Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
All right, Regents, we'll look at our pending business list. We have obviously several things that we are included on today's agenda, and we will have a meeting in May, although it looks like we might have a light meeting in May. We'll see what happens. In June, we are planning a look at regional workforce needs and the strategic plan key performance indicators, and also a review of our annual review of professional service contracts. In July, we'll hear an internal audit report and possibly a SACS, COC, and QEP reaffirmation update in July, August timeframe. Any questions about our pending list?
Carol, only because you just mentioned a May meeting, are we planning to do that in person still?
Yes, I was going to talk about that during calendaring, but yes, we are planning, and we're going to come back. We'll have some discussion about that during calendaring, but we're planning on coming back here to the I&C boardroom in person with some limitations in terms of public as well as staff that are in the room with us, but we feel like we can bring folks back in May. All right, moving on to our consent agenda. There is, for our consent agenda, we have approval of minutes and acceptance of our investments for March 2020. Mr. Bennett, you had a correction to the minutes?
Yes, I believe I was at the workshop and I was on the phone, my mic did not work, so that's probably why I didn't get recorded as being present.
Okay, so with the correction of showing Regent Bennett present at the workshop, are there any other corrections? Can we adopt the consent agenda items with that one correction?
Moved.
Thank you, Ms. Averett. Is there a second? Mr. Garza, you have your mic open. I'm going to let you second it.
Second.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Bennett, do you affirm?
I do.
Thank you very much. That motion passes. We'll now move into our regular agenda, beginning with the college's quarterly investment report. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So our federal government is using all of its tools towards rebooting the economy. This includes fiscal and monetary policy, leading to maximum employment and stable prices. Today we have Linda Patterson from Patterson and Associates, who will discuss the financial implication of these initiatives to the college's investment yields, investment portfolios, performance, strategic strategies in pursuing of higher yields and balancing the college's operating liquidity needs. Ms. Patterson, well?
I am here. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. If we can move to the first slide, please. This is in listening to the board for the last several minutes, it's obvious that everything is impacted by COVID, and the rates and the markets are no exception to this. And you can see it very, very clearly on this illustration, which is the yield curve, which are the rates on the bellwether treasuries, treasury bills and treasury notes. And of course, like everything else affected by COVID, this is looking very dismal. And the horizon in which the college invests is part and parcel, almost controlled by that very flat front end of the curve. And I have mentioned before, there are lots of reasons for this. And obviously some of the stimulus packages coming out now, and the money, the large amount, the trillions of dollars of stimulus money that is in the economy right now, people are not necessarily spending it, they're saving a lot of it. And that means that they are investing to a certain degree in money market funds and in banks. And that's just so much money chasing so few securities that it pushes the prices up extremely high out to the 2-year area there. And you can see that even in the 1-year area, you're very lucky on a good day at the end of March to get a 6 basis points or 0.06%. And we don't even get close to a 1% until we get out into the 5-year area. So we are stuck here. And the Fed, which controls only the overnight rate, only that one on the far left, the Fed funds, but has, as Mr. Garcia mentioned, been very, very aggressive over the past year in making sure that they use the purchase of securities and the release of funds in order to keep the rates low. Because, of course, when rates are low, then people can borrow money cheaply, just as many people have added to the or refinance their mortgages with the rates being low, and getting other loans, and which should help businesses coming back again. But I think the curve very, very clearly also says, and this is, as it says on there, it's a bear steepening, which means that the rates jump up there starting in the 2-year area and move up quite aggressively, which means that many of the investors are anticipating an improvement in the economy, and therefore a general market rise in rates, and they're also very much anticipating inflation, which actually just today came out stronger than anticipated. So there's a lot of input, a lot of movement in the markets, and very good movements. We're seeing a lot of rates higher because the economy is getting stronger. And I listed on the next slide a few of the reasons, if we could have the next slide, a few of the reasons that rates are going up. You can see it in that top graph that it's not anything to write home about yet, but because we still have a lot of volatility month to month, but employment has improved. Now you also hear that the unemployment rate has gone down. That's a very vague index. It sounds good in the media, but it really means that it can be dramatically affected by the number of people who are actually searching for jobs. But payrolls in March surged, and they were up 916,000, where we were expecting more like 700,000. And that shows us getting stronger in the employment area. And of course, as businesses are reopening, as they gain momentum, as we don't have resurgences in the virus, then there are going to be more businesses opening that will improve the employment, the whole picture of employment considerably. The stimulus that has been fed out to the consumer, although not really all of it from the November stimulus program, is coming out, and now we're looking at another $3 trillion coming into the economy. It's fueled the consumer, and they're going out and spending to a certain degree, but that still, we actually see that a lot of consumers are putting the money in the bank. They're saving. Perhaps they've learned a little bit about building up reserves for situations like this going forward, but they're not openly buying as much as we would expect with that kind of stimulus going in. Although I think a lot of that also is going back to pay for debts that were incurred during the worst part of the COVID period. And businesses, of course, when they're opening, they're going to hire. One of the hot spots, and I have mentioned it to you before, and it's just amazing everywhere that you go around Texas, is that housing continues to boom. Of course, a lot of that is because the mortgage rates are so low. But when housing is going, it's one of the main factors in an economy, because we need the commodities, lumber, which of course the price of which has gone sky high, plastics, aluminum, PVC pipe, you name it, all comes into the housing. And then when people get a new house, of course, they have to buy new appliances and paint, and that's why Home Depot and Lowe's are running so strong right now. So overall, the economy is growing at its fastest pace since 1984, and that's just a pace kind of situation. I think, though, that when you look at this, you have to think that there is a warning in here. And the Fed is saying we are far from complete on re-emerging, and they are going to continue to provide the support, but it's driving the stock markets to new historic areas. S&P hit 4,000 for the first time during this quarter. And it does cause risks, more for the stocks than the bonds. And definitely that is not a problem for the portfolio for the college, because you invest only in bonds that are going to mature. They have a set fixed income and coupon rate. But you've seen some of this risk already coming into the markets with the target hedge funds, the Archegos, and the private funds, which have come under some tremendous pressure during the last month. So there's always a good side and a bad side. The good side is we're coming out of it, and it will push rates higher, even if the Fed does not move until 2023. Although the Fed president in Dallas has already said, and these are well orchestrated announcements when they come out, the Fed president in Dallas has said he could see a rate increase in 2021. Not sure I agree with him on that one, but I think he's on target for maybe a 2022. So what has this done to the portfolio? On the next slide, you can see the makeup of the total portfolio, and it's broken, of course, into sub-portfolios because they have different cash flows, they have different requirements. And we still, you can see here that local Maine makes up 35+% of the portfolio, and followed by pretty closely by the 2020 series bonds, Series B, at 22%. And then we still have money sitting from the 2018 Series A, but only 15% of those. So much of Series A of 2020 has been spent, and 2028 Series B, plant and tax and revenue INS are very small parts of the entire portfolio. But we watch them separately because, as I say, they all have different parameters and different cash flow needs. On the next slide, I've given you an overview of really the key points of the portfolios. Now, these are the pooled funds. So it would be local Maine and plant and tax. These do not include the bond funds A or B of the 2018 or 2020 series. And if you look over this period, because I brought in your 18, 19, 19, 20, 2021, and then the current quarter, you can see the dramatic change that the market has brought us here. Back in, as an average for fiscal year 18-19, we were looking at roughly 2.5% yield on the portfolio. And the portfolio at that point was about 88 million, stayed that way. The jump, of course, in the book value and the market value this quarter is due to the income coming in from taxes and also from the bond funds showing up here. But we've tried to, over that period, because the rates have gone down from 2.5% down to not even 0.5%, you have to extend the portfolio. And that's, you can see it being extended there from 81 days up to 241, back to 190, that difference being strictly a matter of what's available in the market and where there's value available. But the benchmark is the 6-month Treasury bill, and it was going from a 2.1% down to a really dismal 0.08%. And so, unfortunately, the earnings follow the rates. What the market gives us and what we can grab in value has moved your earnings for this quarter down to 101,600, which is just a function of being at these low rates. But you can see the portfolio has still got over a third pickup on yield over your benchmark. On the next slide, I've taken those asset allocations. If we could see the next slide. And this is looking at the allocation. So what makes up the portfolio on the various pooled funds? It hasn't changed. Well, it has changed quite a bit from November until February. And both of these snapshots show you that we're using municipal debt quite a bit. The reason for that is that state and local governmental entities have been issuing municipal paper generally called municipals or munis, because of the low rates that are available. And when you have that kind of volume coming in issuance, the competition gets pretty tough. So if you look down on the bottom, they obviously, in November, we were able to find municipals and put them on the portfolio at a 0.9. That's dropped to a 0.6, but that is still wonderful compared to what you're getting in the pools at a 0.1. Commercial paper is another area that we use quite a bit for the short term because there's nothing out there. You remember what that yield curve looked like, and the commercial paper that the portfolio holds right now is at a 0.45 as opposed to the 0.05 that we saw on the curve. The bank is at a 0.38, which is not bad. And the other area that we use quite a bit is the federal agencies. These would be the Fannie Mae's and Freddie Mac's of the world. And so you can see that there's a real dependence on those big areas where we can get the yield, which is the munis, the commercial paper, and the agencies. On the next slide, we can take a look at the 2018. This is A and B, the tax bond funds, and it's pretty much the same story that we saw before. Because of the rates dropping so much from 2.5 to holding on to, because these are a little bit longer, to a 0.54% on it, we've extended the portfolio because you have to reach out a little bit more, even still not sacrificing anything in liquidity, but moving out the portfolio and extending the maturities from 96 days over this period to 297 days. That helps quite a bit because you can see the comparison in the 0.08 on the benchmark versus 50 basis points or 0.5% better on the yield on these particular funds. There are only 54 million left in here, but that generated $73,000 during the last period, the last quarter. And on the next slide, looking at the 2020 series bonds, this is A and B. They, of course, haven't been around as long. They were received in June of 20, and unfortunately the rates were already down there, where as something like the 2018, we had the ability to grab value that was going to stay on the portfolio for a longer time, and that's why the 2018s are closer to a 0.5, where this is a 0.3 on the overall yield. But not too many funds spent out of here yet. We still have $83 million in here, and we have been keeping that out there as that is needed for cash flow purposes. The WAM, of course, or the weighted average maturity, will come down a little bit, but it's still quite long at 481, and the $81,000 as the earnings over the period. On the next slide, looking at both of those last two allocations, you can see that here again we depend quite heavily on those three big areas. Commercial paper for 21% of the portfolio. That's your short-term money, where we're using commercial paper to get a pickup over the Treasury and agencies. As you get out a little bit farther, it's muni bonds for 26% of the portfolio and the agencies for 33%. The pools, of course, are just driven by that low yield curve, and so don't have very much of a chance to compete at all. And they're staying at 0.10 and actually have dropped since the end of March, where this report is reflecting. But you're getting a good 0.6 in the muni bonds and 0.4 in the commercial paper. So you see on a continuing basis that we're going to continue to use those, and hopefully the munis stay up there because they're really helping the portfolio overall. And the next slide is the last one. I'd be glad to answer any questions. I know that you have a long agenda today, so I know you probably don't want to talk much about economics.
Thank you so much, Linda. Do we have any questions for Ms. Patterson or Mr. Garcia? Seeing none, thank you as always for a very thorough report. We really appreciate your insight and the work that you do, and we all just look for the day when our returns get back to pre-COVID levels.
I can assure you I'm watching for that day too.
Do you have something, Dr. Escamilla? Oh, that's correct. Thank you. My parliamentarian here, Dr. Escamilla, is serving dual purposes today. We do need to accept the quarterly investment report for the period ending February 28th, 2021. Is there a motion to accept that report?
So move.
Dr. Adami beat you to it, so Dr. Adami makes the motion. Ms. Hutchison seconds that. Any comments on that motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Mr. Bennett, do you agree?
I do.
Thank you very much. That motion passes. Thank you again, Ms. Patterson. Mr. Garcia, please give us our quarterly financial report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the do we have the slide up? I'm having difficulties here. Okay, can everybody see the financials?
No, sir.
By raise of hands. Quarterly
Agenda
financial
item number
statement.
4, yes.
Yes.
Not on the screen yet.
Not on the screen. Wait, hold, please. And there we are. Nope, that's Ms. Patterson's report.
Yes, just keep going. We're close. We're getting closer. Yep. Perfect. Thank you.
If you can enlarge that, yep. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so the financial condition of the college for the 6-month period ending February 2021 is stable in this current economic environment. There are downward revenue pressures valued at $3.2 million. That is, by the way, offset by reduced spending, currently valued at $2.6 million. The upside is that the college has been planning for this downward trend with planned contingencies valued at $2.6 million and a risk reserve fund valued at $8.6 million. In addition, the college continues to monitor both the revenue and the expenditure activities and will soon initiate a full-scale reduced spending plan for the remaining part of 2020 fiscal year with an estimated value ranging of $2.6 to $4.9 million. This reduction plan includes freezing travel, food, office supplies, and non-critical equipment and computer hardware and software. Freezing all open positions and only approving critical open positions. Any questions on the income statement, the income and expense statement?
Don't have a
Very well.
I don't have a question on the statement themselves, but your comment about freezing computer and software, is that something that could be made up with out of the HERF funds? Because that certainly is concerning considering the amount of online and digital communication that we're required to do.
Yes. So it's a very good question. So I'm going to start off with, we will not be supplanting. Instead, what we're seeing is there is a lot of demands currently in the IT office. I suspect that the demands are going to be even more so in trying to spend the HERF dollars. I think there's $18 million. And so the whole focus of those dollars is going to be a part of it would be to invest in technology that will support a COVID type of academic student support and academic support environment. So we will not have any time to really institute or utilize these dollars for our normal operations, because our whole focus is going to be on the $18 million of the HERF 2 and 3. Does that help?
Well, and what's happened is that the federal dollars have been largely to support through our operations IT efforts, and so there's not been a reduction. There's no way we could have scaled up with all that we've done without an increase. What it was is what's demonstrated here is that the operational dollars were not utilized, but the federal dollars have been utilized with the HERF 1 or the CARES Act, the initial one. Is that fair to say, Mr. Garcia? That's really the question. Is because we want to make sure and clarify how your statement of reduced expenditures for technology in a time where the technology needs are surging. Can you answer that, please?
Yeah, so the technology needs currently is there's a strong focus in operating in this COVID environment, and so that's where the HERF 2 and 3 funding will be utilized. And so the normal standard operating needs of equipment and software for our normal operations are going to be put on standby so that we can focus our attention on the technology component of the HERF 2 and 3. Again, there is no intention whatsoever to supplant any of our operating technology dollars of the HERF 2 and 3. It's just a different focus with a higher emphasis on the COVID environment for student support and academic services, if that makes sense.
It does, and I apologize for missing the presentation. I certainly read it, but I apologize for missing the discussion. The monies are allowed to replace lost revenues, and so we certainly have lost revenues in or under revenues in property taxes and definitely in tuition and fees that would go support our ERP,
absolutely,
capital expenditure, other kinds of things. And so so twofold question. One, will we see that?
Yes.
And where will we see that? Will we actually see that money coming in on our income expense statement? How will we see that money accounted for in our monthly financial reports?
So from a board standpoint and with administration, you'll see that coming in reports. What we described earlier was how we're right now we're understanding the use of those buckets, if you will, and as those fully develop, then we're going to come back to you with a more detailed plan outside of what we submitted today. It was just a matter of telling you what we know today, kind of thing. The other piece on how it's going to be represented in the income statements, Mr. Garcia, can you help us with that?
Yeah, so those are very good questions, very tough questions, by the way, and it's something that I need to navigate with Mr. John Johnson. So the 2.6 million, I believe, is a rough estimate of the revenue losses that we may be able to collect on the HERF 2 and 3 funding. But it's in the form of grant, and so the question is, how do we bridge the operating statement, which you see here before you, with the grant dollars of the $2.6 million loss is the bigger question that I need to carefully navigate and work with, not only with Mr. John Johnson, but our external auditors as to what their expectations are when we report this in the top level audited financial statements. So more to come. Please be patient.
And then my last question is related to our contingency dollars at the bottom of our income and expense report.
Yes.
If
Scroll
there,
down a little bit, please.
Yeah, if there is a suggested use of those dollars, we have contingency for the South Campus, which we have been holding there in anticipation of early hiring and some other things that I know you've changed since COVID has come about. But we do have quite a bit of money that we're holding in contingency, and so if there are needs within our regular operating budget, I applaud you for being tight and for looking at potential cost reductions. But if there are needs that are out there, that's what those contingencies are for.
Absolutely.
And so let's make sure that we don't cut off our nose to spite our face, whatever analogy you want to use.
Well, sure.
Let's use those contingency dollars appropriately.
Yes, ma'am. And it's a very different time from just 12 short months ago,
Right.
and even 6 short months ago. We had no idea. Well, okay, 9 months ago at least. The HERF 1, 2, and 3 is what we're using right now to simple terms, because all the acronyms you'll get confused. I get confused. We get confused. But those 3 packages have changed the way we're seeing things. And but you're absolutely right. The idea is to utilize those dollars to supplement our operations and to move forward. Do not go backwards. We're getting ready. Again, the nation's being told, get ready for a good resurgence and a resurgence of enrollment, particularly focused at the fall semester. So you have to have those resources infused and ready to go.
Thank you for indulging my questions. Anything else from any other regents?
We're glad to sit down with you after this, and if you've got more questions over the report, we're happy to go through it in finer detail for you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, so I have one more piece to this presentation, if I may, and that would be on the balance sheet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So next slide, please. So the college's financial liquidity is well positioned to support the mission of the college and weather most business interruptions with cash and investment position of $59.8 million. The college's financial resources are sufficient to pay its current obligations. That includes accounts payable, the college's statutory required annual pension and the OPEB obligations, and the annual revenue bond debt service payment and deferred tuition revenue valued at about $13.7 million. So we are still in good shape. We have a vision of what the contingency dollars are going to be used, and we have a vision of what the HERF dollars can be used for. And so I think we have a plan that'll help us get us through this crisis. That concludes my presentation.
Any other questions or comments, Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, if we can go back to that slide, but am I looking at well, we've got resources of 101 million. We have liabilities of 120.
Yes, but that's combining both short-term and long-term obligations. So the short-term piece, I think I mentioned in my presentation, was $13.7 million. Short-term paying obligations that need to be paid in the next 6 to 12 months.
So well, I'm looking, we've got the pension liability at $80 million. Does that mean our pension fund is underfunded?
So this is a very complicated subject matter. I will say that. No, is the state going to come after me for $80 million tomorrow or in the next 12 months? The answer is no. No, this is a requirement under our standard operating reporting standards, our guidelines by GAAP, that we have to show the full-blown obligation. The basis for it is how would I frame it? If the world was going to end tomorrow, I will need to pay $80 million to the state if they bill me, but that's not the case. The true reality is it's a pay-as-you-go pretty much type of concept modeling, where the true amount is significantly less than $80 million. And I think when we have I think we have a one-to-one meeting, you and I and the executive team, at which point in time I will go over the audited financial statements and point to you what the true current value obligation is. And it's somewhere to the tune of about, if I was to estimate, it's about $1 million to $2 million that I would have to pay on an annual basis.
Okay, so but by doing this way, even with the deficiency, we're within accepted accounting standards?
Yeah, so this is the reporting standards of generally accepted accounting principles.
Thank you.
It is not it's on an accrual basis, not on a cash basis. Very important.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Kelly, it's those GASB conditions that you recall from your days on the council as well as the school board.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so we'll have a lot to talk about on our one-on-one session, I guess.
Okay, but remember, I'm not an accountant.
We'll get you there.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Garcia? And that concludes your report, sir. Yes. Do we have an action to adopt the college's quarterly financial report?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Garza. All those in favor of accepting the quarterly financial report, please raise your hand. Mr. Bennett, do you concur?
I do.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, members, we will now, we're going to consider item number 5 after closed session. So there being no other business in our regular agenda, please allow me to read the closed session language, and then we will take a few moment break to clear the virtual room. The board will now enter into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 regarding the pending or contemplated litigation or a settlement offer with possible discussion and action in open session, and the seeking of legal advice from counsel on pending legal or contemplated matters or claims with possible discussion and action in open session. And Texas Government Code 551.072 regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property with possible discussion and action in open session. Texas Government Code 551.089 regarding security assessments, deployments, or audits related to information services technology or the design, operation, and defense of a computer network, certain network security information, and deployment, or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel, critical infrastructure, or security devices, or information confidential under Texas Government Code 551.139 with discussion, possible discussion, action, open session, and Texas Government Code 551.074A1 regarding the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including the annual evaluation of the college president and president's contract, and number 2, annual board self-evaluation with possible discussion and action in open session. The time is 4:06 p.m. We will reconvene in 5 minutes at 4:11 if possible. Thank you very much. All right, we are returning from closed session at 5:26 p.m. We are returning to agenda item number 5. I will be abstaining and have abstained from discussion and vote on this item. It is a real estate transaction that is being closed by my husband's company, and I am going to be abstaining from that presentation and vote. So Ms. Libby Avert will now conduct this item for us.
Thank you.
We're ready.
Thank you. Regent Scott has cleared the room and is no longer on the meeting. So Mr. Strybos, Dr. Escamilla, I'll turn it over to you.
Mr. Strybos is going to carry this one through. Mr. Strybos?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Regents, this is John Strybos. The administration has been evaluating the property located at 3002 Ayers. This is in direct proximity to our East Campus. We're recommending purchase of this property for a price of $275,000. You have an information package that shows the property and its location and the details of the property. And I believe you have an action item that you can read. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I have a motion. I move that we approve the purchase of the property located at 3002 Ayers Street at the price of $275,000 and other terms as outlined by staff in closed session, and to further authorize administration to proceed with execution of all necessary and appropriate documentation.
Thank you, Regent Kelly. Is there a second? Dr. Adame, saw your hand first, so we'll let you have the second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, if you'll raise your hand, please. Regent Bennett?
I agree.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes this item. Is Regent Scott coming back in to close us out?
Yes, ma'am. 1 second.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, I am here. Thank you very much, Regent Avert, for conducting that business in my absence. Regents, the last thing on our agenda for the day is calendaring our upcoming meetings. Our next board meeting will be in May, and I have the date in front of me.
Me too.
May 11th. Are we anticipating a workshop? We're not sure, so
possibly.
Hold the morning clear for a workshop because we're not sure. I don't think we're going to have one, but hold it clear at this point.
Exactly. We don't have it scheduled, and we may just change the regular meeting a little bit.
Gotcha. And we will be returning to in-person board meetings. There will be specific protocols still related to how the public and staff interact in those board meetings, but we are going to be returning to at least some of the board members returning in person on that May 11th meeting here in the I&C boardroom. And then we have graduation scheduled for Friday, May the 14th.
Yes, ma'am. That's 7 p.m.
At 7 p.m. It'll be a virtual graduation.
Yes, ma'am.
So looking forward to that opportunity. Anything else for our calendar for today? If not, then we are adjourned at 5:30 p.m. Thank you all very much for your attendance today and your participation.